kick off tonight with Katie Walper, Park and Rec Director. You get to provide a semi-annual update, Katie. Woo-hoo.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. People saw on the agenda Park and Recreation. We have a great crowd tonight, so I'm excited. So it's been a little bit, but to recap our summer, we had a really successful summer. It was very busy. A couple of highlights for us when it comes down to summer camp. We sold out of summer camp every single week, and with a wait list of averaging about 35 per camp. We added a Teen Extreme camp, which is serving our 11 to 14-year-olds. Is something we added something new per our survey last year to have something for older kids. So the Teen Extreme camp went on 3 field trips a week, and then the other 2 days was your traditional camp weeks, days. We ran a sports camp with Skyhawk, so we also had feedback of the survey last year as offering a sports component, so we partnered with our vendor. We did a survey after camp. The overall satisfaction of our camp experience was 9 out of 10. That's 154 surveys returned to us, and overall a 9.1 overall rating for our camp staff. So hands across the board, most of the surveys said something about our staff and how great they were. It's always great to see familiar faces. We have a really good retention rate. What families would like to see is more spots at camp. We do sell out in the first 5 minutes of registration. Early drop-off opportunities, so families that need to go to work by 9 a.m., they have an option to drop off at 8:30. As well as more weeks of Teen Extreme. So it's exciting. We launched it with 4 weeks this year just to see if we would have a great response or just keep it small and see and make changes as we go. So next year we're looking at creating this camp for 6 to 7 weeks. Overall, it was a very hot summer. We do not have air conditionings at our schools or the FAF. However, we are working on that for next year. We had some great partnerships with the fire department who came and sprayed us down to keep us nice and cold. So it was very great for Chief Carrico to come, as well as the police department who brought popsicles on several occasions, which was amazing to see. So thank you to the police department. We're looking at adding camps for 3 and 4-year-olds. So this year at camp, we cut back our 4-year-olds to only a half-day option as they weren't making the full day. They needed a nap. We can't provide naps. So we're looking at making a 3 to 4 camp. We'd start with 4 weeks, kind of mimicking what we did for Teen Extreme. And then overall, our spacing has become an issue. So the FAF Center can only hold so much. Dale Street is very gracious and gives us the cafeteria as well as the gymnasium. But we need more space and to accommodate a larger camp. That is a barrier that when we talk to our families after camp, space is an issue. We had a great amount of staff applicants this year. We had over 85 seasonal help between camp counselors, groundskeepers, as well as lifeguards. And then we go to our shining star, the Hinkley Pond. We sold fewer seasonal passes this year, roughly about $1,500 difference from 2023 to 2024. We had a geese issue. We hired a company that has trained dogs to help with the issue, but unfortunately 2 geese families made it their home. So we had lots of geese, and if you go down to Hinkley Pond right now, we have a home of 30 to 40 of them. We had an amazing staff with lifeguards, and this is the first year that we saw plenty of lifeguards that we had to turn away. We did partner with other local groups that need lifeguards, so then we have a partnership going with a couple of the rec departments as well as the local Kingsbury Club. We've offered, if we turned away a lifeguard, we give our applicants an opportunity to reach out to them in case they're in need of people. Visitors would like us to bring back the concession stand. This year we decided not to do the concession stand, but most of our seasonal passes asked for that to come back. We did offer the ice cream truck to come some days to visit to kind of offset that because that was our biggest seller when we did have a concession stand. However, that is something that they would like the commission to discuss to bring back for summer 2025. We're also looking for other opportunities to bring additional revenue to the pond. Our pond does run at a deficit. We have looked at swimming lessons. In prior years, the average of swimming lessons only amounted to about 15 to 20 families, and we were only charging $45 to $55, but that was in 2019, 2020.
Okay.
Yeah, so not
back in the day, that was packed.
Oh, yeah. The one other thing that we would have to look at when we bring back swimming lessons is lifeguards need to be WSI certified. So one thing, because we're an open waterfront, our lifeguards already have to go through 2 trainings. We offset the cost by paying for the second training, which is a waterfront certification. So we partner with Natick Parks and Recreation. They run it for us. So we're just seeing if we will ask our lifeguards of last year if they're one, going to plan on coming back, but 2, if they would be interested in being WSI. So if we do have a pool, we are going to try and bring back swimming lessons.
So I know I'm going to age myself because I actually was the director of Swim Pond back in 83,
Yep.
84. I know that we had a program with the Red Cross, and we went out to Camp Mackinac. So a lot of the Medfield youth that wanted to be water safety certified, swim instructor certified, CPR, that's what the Red Cross camp did for us.
Yep.
And then I was able to use it in college, and I was able to take that and then lifeguard at our college pool, et cetera. So, and the town didn't pay me to do it. I benefited from it because, so I would love to see if Camp Mackinac or some of the Red Cross camps are
I'll
available.
definitely look into that. And that's a little bit of a wrap up on Hinckley Pond.
Okay.
Other current projects. So Hinckley Playground had a soft opening the first week of 4th of July. We are gearing up for the ribbon cutting and opening celebration this Sunday from 12 to 2. We hope that even though the Patriots on and they won and turned over the Bengals, we hope that you come to the ribbon cutting first, and then by 1 o'clock you can make it for kickoff.
We can plug a TV in with digital antenna. That's not hard in 2024.
Listen, I'm trying. I am trying. I think I can.
I do it all the time in my backyard. We can do it.
So we're really excited. I'd like to thank a couple of people. One, the Hinckley Helpers, who did an amazing job getting this off the ground, but also there was a lot of partnerships with town municipalities, DPW, police, fire, planning. Without everybody, town administration, we would not have done this. It's remarkable. I've been here a year and a half now, and it's all my friends in Park and Rec World, like, you already have a playground off the ground? I'm like, and lights. So yes, we're really excited. We hope people can come. The weather looks amazing, and you get to see the Geese family at the pond. We also finished our Metacomic Light project about 2 weeks ago. We are currently working with our company who finished the project. They right now are coming back to level the ground as well as seeding and loaming. There have been a couple of complaints of how the area looks right now, and we have assured I am meeting with 2 people from the public on Thursday if anybody else would like to come and do a walkthrough with me. But we have gotten confirmation. The company unfortunately kept giving us a pushback. We had a lot of people wanting to play night tennis, so we decided, but we're going to do a walkthrough to make sure everything right now is okay and safe.
What time is that?
1:30 on Thursday.
Okay.
Yep. But we're super excited. We have lights. We also, cool feature, we have a push button from 6 to 9 p.m. We wanted to make sure that we weren't using so much electricity. So if people go down there on the electrical box, you can press the button from 6 to 9. After 45 minutes to an hour, the lights will shut off. So if it's like that 40 minutes, set a timer, run back, push the button. Really excited for that, and then hopefully in the near future we will get those tennis courts paved. That has been brought up by several residents, but that is part of our game plan. On deck we have the Hinckley and McCarthy paving project. We're currently in the process of getting an RFP, so that way Hinckley Pond parking lot as well as the McCarthy driveway is paved. And then lastly, for projects, we have a disc golf course. We're very fortunate to have Avery Jenkins, the consultant for Disc Golf Park, come to Medfield in July. If you Google him, I didn't know who he is, but he's like famous. I call him like the LeBron James of basketball, but for disc golf. Park and Recreation Commissioner Rob Tatro as well as Tim Walsh are the leads on this project. Right now, what we're gonna try to do is make an appointment to walk the 12 acres, but we have 36 acres, but also see and come back to the Board of Selectmen in October or November just to see if we can do an assessment, because we wanna see and make sure that wherever they would like to put the course, like, it doesn't interfere, and that's something that we have talked about. So that is exciting. And then lastly, to kind of sum up, Programming and special events. So we are taking off. I am so excited. Fall programs attendance doubled registration compared to 2023. So we last year had about, on registration day, we had about 400. This year we had 481. We have micro pre-K in our kinder soccer program, which has 280 participants. So on Saturday at McCarthy, we have 280 participants with our soccer program. I think that is a highlight to the Parks and Recreation. We added some new adult programming, goat yoga. Yeah, I'm excited. Cake and cupcake decorating courses, especially if you're looking for the holidays, you want to decorate your own. We do have a pastry chef coming to teach us how to do that, as well as charcuterie board classes and charcuterie cup classes. So if you'd like to learn how to put those boards together, come on down. New youth programs, we have Writing Wizards, Half Day Adventures, and Dough Delight. For new elementary programs, we have the Tiny Tot Gym class, which unfortunately is sold out. Kids yoga, as well as intro to golf. And then new special events that we added to our calendar this fall is the Halloween Spooktacular in the park. We also added holiday cookie decorating to be more inclusive to all. And then lastly is our New York City holiday trip on December 7th. This is an idea taken off that have a bus trip. Families can bring their kids, or adults can go for a shopping trip or go see a matinee, and it's a beautiful time in the city. So that is December 7th. We hope that the bus runs. So if anyone's out there and planning their fall winter, December 7th, it's a great opportunity. And then lastly, the fields, we welcome Rich Vauteur as our new groundskeeper. He is a familiar face as he transferred over from the school department. We're welcoming new private groups to rent out our fields, so that's helping our deficit with the fields. So we're welcoming 2 new organizations this fall. We're fixing various irrigation issues at McCarthy, mostly sprinkler related, but we have an older system, so we are doing an assessment of what that looks like. We're currently aerating and fertilizing the field in preparation to fall, and I think after this season I will be a professional groundskeeper because I am learning a lot. Hydro seeding is my new best friend at Hinckley Park from 6:30 to 7. If you want to come down, I got it all figured out. As of now, that is all I have for our update. We did, I forgot to mention and make note, in March we did win the Community Impact Award for the state of Massachusetts, so I thought that was something to highlight. And our upcoming Park and Recreation Commission meeting will be Wednesday, September 18th in person and on Zoom.
Yay. You have no idea how happy I am about that. And then you're going to do a Zoom every other weekend, right? Not just that one time.
To be determined.
All right, Pete, any questions?
Yes, a couple. First of all, I just congratulations on being so successful. It sounds like you guys are going great guns, and that's wonderful. I love the model of the Park and Rec where you guys basically have this revolving fund where you make the money to run the programs, and so it's very entrepreneurial, and it sounds like it's working well. So I heard you say that the camp sold out, and so that raises in my mind, is there more capacity? Is there some way to serve more campers?
Yes. So this January, we'll be welcoming an assistant director to our department. Right now, we have roughly between our 3 camps, about 275 campers for 2 full-time staff members. So Jackie and I, the ratios are a little high. We have site supervisors as well as camp counselors. There is room to expand. What we worry about is quality over quantity. We pride ourselves in being able to have those individual relationships. The other thing is spacing. We need to have a discussion with the schools to see what would be available as far as could we relocate our Teen Extreme group. One of the Teen Extreme, to be specific, they didn't like being around Adventure, which is around the same age, because they want to be separate. They are the older group. So that's something that we're going to work on in the off season, is just seeing if we can find another home within the schools. They are also very busy in the summer. But looking at different, someone asked us if we could rent a tent for the season and put a tent up at a field, and could that be a home to a place? We always just want to be in walking distance of the pond, just because people do like that afternoon opportunity to play on the playground or go swimming. So there's definitely opportunity to grow. I think once we have an assistant director, I think 2026 would be more apt to grow, just so we have more support, but also we can figure out the spacing issue.
Yeah, and maybe the extra campers could help to pay the salary of the assistant director, so that'd be perfect. And I heard you say the swim pond the numbers were down. Do you have any idea why that is?
It's not a destination spot, so I call it the hidden gem of Medfield. Once we did get a lot of social media out there. I feel like this was a hot summer, and so we see also day passes drop. They're looking to go to the beach or they're staying inside. We are planning on doing, the commission and I. We want to kind of build the area out. Like right now, we don't have a concession stand. We do have a working shower this season, so that was a highlight. But we're looking at potentially doing more events in the springtime to highlight the area. So we're going to try to do some special events. We're going to look at bringing a band. I just don't think it's as known, and we're one of unique communities. We do take non-residents as well. Their fee is a little bit higher. So I think once we get some marketing tools, we might be up to it. But I see a lot of people just wanting to go to pools.
So you have the perfect marketing tool located right next to the swim pond now. Your new playground is just, I hear it's just going great guns with a lot of people going. So congratulations on getting that done, and thank you for doing that. And I'm looking forward to that opening, and everybody says that it's great, so it looked pretty cool to me. There were all kinds of things that I didn't know how they worked.
The victory wall.
And then the last thing, I'll just thank you, because somebody reached out to me about the lights down at Metacomet this last week, and I was able to pass them off to you as the appropriate person to deal with the issues down there. So thank you for dealing with them. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, first off, I think that was a great report, Katie. I think for a Park and Rec department to have the energetic delivery you gave, it probably reinforces the brand, and that's a good thing. The first question I have is actually almost builds on Pete's, and I was curious, aside from the camp issues, when you launch a program and you sell it out, then you know the demand is greater than what you you sized it for. Do you have any way of knowing how big the unmet demand is? It's one thing to know that it's completely subscribed and there's more people.
Yeah.
Do you have any way of measuring how big that unmet demand is in terms of, from a numeric standpoint?
Yeah, so looking back at the last 3 years, the wait list is pretty consistent with the numbers. And so we're ranging between 25 and 37 on the wait list consecutively. There are a couple of, I call them not as popular weeks, like 4th of July week, we don't see a wait list just because a lot of people are away. But we see the last 2 weeks in August, there's a higher demand because a lot of these private camps are closing. But I would say looking, currently, our current numbers are 85 for both Discovery and Adventure and 35 for our Teen Extreme. We could probably go to 100 in each camp. I would be a little hesitant to do that for our Discovery age because that's 4 to 8-year-olds, and so adding a lot adds a lot more issues when it comes to behavioral. But I think we could get comfortably to at least 100. We could also sell out Teen Extreme probably with 2 buses, but it becomes who oversees that. We're fortunate we have site supervisors that come back. However, we don't want to grow a program that won't sustain.
And then during the year, for some of just the athletic, the different athletic offerings you have, I don't know if there's wait lists for that or?
No, not typically. So what we see is a lot of our families will use the sports camps. Well, some love the sports. Like they had disc golf this year, they had ultimate frisbee, they had a multi-sport. They like that because it's a 4-day option. But we do see when the wait list happens, they transfer over to the vendor camp. So they offset. I will say, though, one of the things that is a very time-consuming process, we host registration in March. So we have a firm, you do not get a refund unless we can fill your spot, because what we saw in the last 2 summers previous to this summer were people unfortunately were taking advantage of the system, and they would take all the spots in March because they didn't know what their vacation schedules or other schedules, use it as a placeholder and then drop out left and right. So I think this year, around, which is, it's a lot. We had over 125 switches. So that's a lot of upkeep. And so sometimes when we have that wait list, people would cancel and try to cancel 2 weeks prior to the week. We have a no refund. We try to fill the spot because we don't want that. However, it discourages them from taking advantage. But rolling into the model we currently have, it was a lot less switches compared to 2023.
And then another, this again, it wasn't what Pete talked about directly, but I think what was underneath some of this was around, it's great that you've got a revolving fund and you're paying for yourself.
Yeah.
4 or 5 years ago, I went to the Mass Municipal Association annual meeting, and I went to one of the breakouts, which was people, Parks and Rec type directors from various towns talking about their programs and how great they were. And at the time, the ones who were saying their programs were great, the argument or the case they were making is because we charge so much for people to do this that we're totally self-sufficient. And at the time, I kind of said, well, that's good, except maybe there's some people that can't sign up for that stuff because of the philosophy. Do we have a sense of, I guess I'm asking, are the rates that we charge set up in a way that works? It's got to be good to where you can fund things, but do we know that the rates we're charging, and maybe we use tiered rates, I don't know, that there's nobody here in town that maybe doesn't go out to the Cape for the summer that's not signing up for stuff because they can't sign up for it?
Yeah, so we're currently priced around middle of the pack in the Metro West area. Comparatively to Medfield camps, we are one of the cheapest. Okay. What we find is we have a great partnership with Outreach for families who might not. Okay. I always worry about what are the people who can't afford camp, right, and I don't want to price them out. So we have a great partnership with Outreach, and something that the commission and I have talked about in the next coming years is we still have families that don't have enough funding. So looking at what that is, but long story short, we're around the middle of the pack when it comes to park and recreation. We're kind of higher end, to be very honest. We had our Metro West meeting today. Usually camps are floating in the park and rec world around 275 to 300, and our Discovery Camp, which is our youngest who don't go on field trips, but we bring the entertainment to them, is at 360. And then our Adventure Camp that goes on a field trip is 375. And our Teen Extreme Camp that goes on 3 field trips is 400.
Gus, the Medfield Foundation actually runs a camp fund to send kids to camp at Katie's camp. Right. And I think that the Medfield Foundation provides tens of thousands. It's either like 20,000 a year. I don't know the exact number.
Medfield Foundation's great. I think in your answer it was like, I think we might still have some people that could take advantage, and we're working on it. That's all.
No, and that's a great part I've seen in Medfield is families don't take advantage. And we communication with Kathy McDonald. If I start to see a family don't come, I want to do a check-in, like, is everything okay? But also we do see sometimes transportation issues. But I think what I really love seeing is that the families that are utilizing are coming and not abusing the system. I just think, and I've talked to the commission, and Rob's here tonight, not on behalf of the commission, but he's a commissioner, is that we're seeing an influx of people needing additional support. And currently, we rely on the revolving account, but the revolving account only can do so much. And so as a commission, we're talking about what can we do as a park and recreation to set aside a little bit of money. Do we up our fees like $2 or $3? Some models that are similar to Medfield is they'll take, they up the registration by $2 or $3, but that $2 or $3 goes to a campership and or scholarship fund. And so then that way Park and Rec could work with Outreach to say, you have X amount, I have X amount, what can we do? Because we need to help our families, not just in the summertime. We have a lot of people who need the after school help too.
Okay. Last question I have is, do you sense, in terms of sports that are of greatest interest to the kids in town, do you sense any trends in one direction, that one sport's becoming more popular? Or?
So not really for Park and Rec. Soccer is huge. Disc golf is big, and so we have a frisbee group coming in now that are looking. Field hockey. Park and Rec does not run lacrosse programming or MYBS, but their numbers have been great. What we're seeing is with our soccer program, we're going up and up. So we have 280 to 285 participants in the fall and spring. But yeah.
Okay,
Katie,
thank you.
what ages do you run for soccer?
What was it?
What ages do you run for
So
soccer?
micro is 3 and 4 year olds, pre-K is pre-K, and then kindergarten. And then we have a partnership with the youth soccer organization. When they are programming and transitioning out, we'll send information of what the next step is to get to the youth soccer leagues.
You guys made me a soccer coach to my 6-year-old daughter, and I always appreciated that because I liked it, being a soccer coach, so I stayed a soccer coach for years.
Yeah.
All right, a couple of questions.
Yes.
I'd like to hear, I'm happy to hear that you're talking about food and drink for 2025, because I know I was up there this past, the beginning of your season, and I was slightly caught off guard that we didn't offer sodas, chips, or anything. And knowing how many electronic POS systems exist today, even if somebody did a $100 membership card and were able to buy that down. So that's good that you're looking at that. And I think swimming lessons, I can appreciate when Kingsbury opened, that gave a good-sized pool for people to come in and have their kids have swimming lessons. But I really do hope you guys look at that, because from a drawing, I mean, I don't know how many people grew up here in Medfield, but that was a foundation, and then you really built off that, because the kids got there at either 7:30, 8, straight through, depending on how many kids you had, to like 11:30, did a little bit of downtime, and then it rolled right into the afternoon. And then you really got the feed of, you had visitors, and to your point, not everybody lived in Medfield that came for lessons. And I think that just, it's nice income, and it's the same people, as you know. Your lifeguards are there earlier, and they're just going right through the day. And if I'm not mistaken, you have enough lifeguards that you're not having that same person be there 5 days straight. So you're able to rotate people in and out.
Yeah.
Which is good. And then you mentioned McCarthy Park paving. The one comment that I've heard from friends that have the kids in the soccer program is that parking is a nightmare there. Like, there's not enough today.
Yep.
So even bringing any more activity to an area that's already crammed with cars and little kids running around. During the pavement of McCarthy Park, is the intent to put parking spaces, or really just improve the road itself and not look to have lined parking from the start all the way to where the baseball and softball fields are?
Yeah, so currently it's just to pave and reline what we currently have.
Okay.
We're also talking to Sean McCarthy and Neil from MYBS about avoiding our high traffic times for Saturday, because between Saturday at 8 o'clock in the morning and 11:45, we have 285 families. Yeah. And then if you add youth baseball, we purposely don't contract out our softball field on Saturdays because of this reason.
Sure.
But it's been an ongoing issue prior to me. But we did say when we do the paving project, we want to make sure that that is something that we're looking into, because if you go up there, they're parking on every angle, and then it's a nightmare. So that's something we're definitely on our radar. I would hope we could get more parking spots, but right now it's more of just paving what's currently there.
And to me, again, that's one of those why when we look to put any more activity, disc golf or anything, even a new structure that, down the road, we've got to make sure we have plenty of parking, for especially for our in-town residents. Because if everyone's coming from out of town to do these other activities, my first, second, and third priority is people that are paying money to have these kids in the programs have a place to park. And so just a couple of questions on programs that you initiated last year that were wildly successful. At the tree lighting ceremony last year, you had a little
Fire pit s'mores.
Yes. So on the radar or for this year?
Yeah, so I actually got an email from Jean on my, maybe Monday, yes, is that yesterday? Yesterday, asking if we could do it, but I didn't have enough time to put it on the agenda to ask for permission.
Okay.
But we would like to do that because it was a great feedback, and they wanted us to stay longer.
And so I noticed when you said December 7th, I think that might be the same weekend as the Angel Run?
Yeah, they're the 8th, I think, I believe.
So the buses would go to New York for a day or an overnight?
Yep, so we leave at 5:30 a.m., and then we get back around midnight.
Oh, good, okay, all right, fabulous.
And then you can run a 5K.
Or walk it, there's no running required.
Maybe we'll partner.
And then one last one, I think I kicked this around with you last year. Halloween, any opportunity to do a mini Halloween parade in any part of downtown for the little kids? Since we've got more and more shops and just to kind of bring it into the community?
Yeah, that's, we can definitely explore that option.
Not for 2024, I'm not putting that on you, but like even to think about how we could do as we roll into 2025.
Yeah, we can do.
Because I see so many towns do it, and it's such a great fun activity. The event, the restaurants, the shops.
Well, I want to take advantage of this opportunity in Medfield is a trick or treat for little ones on a weekday. And so we did this in my previous position is town hall hosted. So offices had candy and trinkets and the kids would walk through, but then we would go to the library. We would partner with brothers. And so it was like a Halloween stroll. But yeah, I would love that because who doesn't like seeing all these little kids in costumes and handing out treats? But I can put that down.
And so the holiday spooktacular, you're doing that with Medfield TV. Is that
No, so they're doing their Scarecrow event. So we're partnering with them. I believe it's October 13th around that. We're the 27th on a Sunday.
Oh, okay.
So we wanted to kind of pivot to off Saturday programming
Okay.
and try something new on a Sunday. And we already have 57 registrants and it's our first time. So we're doing actually a costume parade through the playground. So we'll start with that and then we'll move to the streets.
Okay.
in 2025.
And I think other than that, I'll echo Pete and Gus's sentiment. I mean, thank you so much. Your energy is contagious, and I hear wonderful things. I mean, the Hinckley helpers are ecstatic to be able to get the park open this Sunday. One of the texts I received from them is, Katie just does wonderful things, right? And they want you to know that. There were a couple of bumps along the road but putting that behind us, you've done great things, and there's just a lot of momentum going forward. So, congratulations to you and to the commission.
Thank you. See you at an event
Any
soon.
questions before she runs off?
Look at the crowd. It keeps getting bigger for Park and Rec.
All right. Jump back to the agenda here. Okay, so next up, we have Penny Connor, Chair of the Medfield Energy Committee, to request Select Board to endorse the zero emissions vehicle first policy.
Penny cannot make it tonight. She's asked to be moved until next Tuesday's
Oh,
meeting.
I didn't know that. Okay, all right. All right. All right, so next one is discussion item, potential votes with West and 27 intersection design discussion and next steps. And I think you have something to say.
Eileen, Pete, I need to give you some feedback, and I think this is the right time to do it. Perhaps unsurprisingly, I would hope you wouldn't be surprised to hear I was not even remotely pleased with the blog you put out, but I want you to know why.
Which blog?
This one on West Street, this one right here.
Oh,
The first reason, this is an issue that the Select Board, is in the middle of deliberating. And the fact that any member of the Select Board would choose to kick that incompletely deliberated issue out into the public and get the public stirred up, and I'm pretty sure at least some people are stirred up, judging by the communications I've gotten. That's counterproductive to a collaborative working relationship of the three Select Board members. I am absolutely incensed, and you absolutely do not have my permission to represent my views to the public. From here forward, I don't expect you to ever do that again. If you want to, then I would expect you to give me the draft of what you've written and say, hey, I want to be able to say this. You have a blog, you can comment on your own opinions, but you got my position wrong. You posted it out to everybody. And I think that's because you don't understand my position, which is fine, because we haven't had that much deliberation. That's my main issue here, is you do not speak for me to the public. Anybody out here, you want to hear what I think about something and why, contact me, and I'll let you know. I usually have reasons. As it was, the information you put in your blog was incorrect. There's errors in it. And the real point is, I think we've had a good working relationship in the 8 years I've been on the Board of Selectmen and the Select Board. I actually think we've had a pretty good relationship. I know for my part, it's been important to me that my fellow Select Board members, that they get treated with respect, they have a chance to be heard. And This was the exact opposite of that for me. And so I will request, you can use your blog in whatever legal ways you feel you can to let people know what you think. You can use your blog to reflect things that are in meeting minutes or something that are actually documented. But if you want to talk for me, let me know what it is you want to say before you do it. Otherwise, don't talk for me.
Okay, I mean, I don't try to ever talk for the two of you. I just try to get information that I see that I think people will be interested in and share it with the public. In the conversation that night, it seemed clear to me that the two of you wanted a traffic light as
See,
opposed to a roundabout.
You got it wrong. That's
No.
my point.
No, all we asked from that meeting was, it was presented to us that we could, that's something that the state is pushing for, but it's not mandated. And we know what we originally requested. I read the report that talked about what the state actually suggested, which was 2 options for lights and 1 for a roundabout. And all I was asking, there was no decision made that night. Right? And so when I got home from being away from some family things and I read that, it did offend me that you jumped on us a few weeks ago for breaking open meeting laws because we were doing something with meeting minutes. That by no means were we doing it, because it's already what was discussed and we were either saying that it was captured correctly or not. But for you to then have a discussion in your blog and put words in our mouth, you're actually having a deliberation without us even having any say in it. So it's just wildly unfortunate. I think your blog is extremely beneficial to this town. You try to bring information forward, but I don't think having a discussion about what we talked about at the select board meeting, implying things that are not true, it's just not acceptable.
Well, all I try to do is report on what I hear, and
Well,
obviously
you're
I
not-
thought I heard that the two of you were in favor of the lights over the roundabout, so that's all I was reporting.
So Pete, we've just demonstrated that what you think you hear when it comes to us does not give you the authority to go and tell everybody what we think. If you think you heard something and if you have a burning desire to publish it, all you have to do is say, listen, here's what I'm putting out. Have I got this right?
All right, well, it
Fair enough?
sounds like I've
Okay.
offended both of you, so I apologize if I got it wrong, because I certainly didn't intend to share anything that was wrong. All I was trying to do was to get information out to people.
So first off, for my part at least, apology accepted. To the public, we run a transparent operation here. You just saw a bunch of dirty laundry, but that's okay. That's how it works. The one glaring correction I would make was the last point that you made that said if we don't do this and we lose the funding, the town is on the hook for $1.9 million. That's not true. At least based on the estimates we have, if we were to go do something other than that rotary, the estimate was 1.4. So that's a $500,000 difference in what the implications are. And that kind of matters. So apology accepted. I wanted this out on the table because I was really incensed about it. And more importantly, I think it undercuts the credibility of the select board, because people who would naturally believe anything they've heard from any select board member are actually, for whether intentional or not, doesn't matter. As a practical matter, people have been misled. And now we have to kind of have a conversation to how to get it back on track.
And I echo that sentiment. Like, I know you didn't do anything intentionally, but Pete, there's so many times when I've sat up here and 2 weeks later you'll say, I didn't hear that. And yet we just talked about something 2 weeks before and you can go to YouTube and watch it. So that when you use this is how I heard it, that's what bothers me most, because you may hear it differently than the facts, and then the fact that you then put it down and then people read it and that's how they interpret it. And again, we can't have this conversation except in front of you. I couldn't call him, I couldn't stop by his office and have this one-on-one. Gus actually made it to my mother's wake and he was talking to my brother about something and I stepped up and I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, open meeting law. I'm like, oh gee, sorry, my head's not in the game right now. So like, we don't do this, and that's why it's so important for you to understand. We are as transparent as humanly possible. Do we all make mistakes? We all make mistakes. So that's why I know you didn't do anything intentionally, right? But it is very important moving forward. When you write about what you want to write about in the blog, if it has anything to do with the police, I would say check with Barry and check with Michelle, right? Because you're going to put something down that implies something's happening there, and it might not be. It might be something that looks one way to the public, but something's going on behind the scenes. When you talk about the select board, I would just say don't reference what we're talking about here and put your view to it. You want to put facts, then go to YouTube, make sure what you're about to type is exactly what we said. But, no, it's, again, this is how we have to communicate, and, again, not to make it uncomfortable for you, but we also have a very good working relationship, and I don't want it to be that we can't have a candid conversation.
Sure. And so I thought that I was putting out facts, because of the facts that I thought I heard from the two of you that night was that you both favored pursuing the traffic lights over the roundabout. And
Yeah.
so,
So we've demonstrated you were mistaken in your understanding. What we did, what I think we both did, and what I certainly did that night, was indicate that we needed to continue to look and investigate the lights. So I didn't want to just roll over and play dead for DOT and say, well, I guess it's the roundabout because they've given us some marching orders. I resisted that, but I wasn't firmly committed to one option or another back then, and in fact, even tonight, I'm not. So that's exactly why you shouldn't speculate on what we're thinking.
I think you're making my position for me, Gus, by saying that you were wanting to pursue the lights.
Well, as I said,
I mean, that's
Pete,
what I
you
heard
don't-
that
You don't
night.
understand.
But,
You
you know,
don't
we don't need to argue about
No, but you're
this.
not hearing what we're
I
saying.
hear it, and I just try to hand it to the residents so that they can go and watch the meeting itself and determine for themselves.
So-
By
so
the way,
Pete-
Eileen, I was not trying to make an issue out of what you were doing with the minutes. I was trying to comply with what I understood was Mark Sorrell's orders to us about avoiding the open meeting law. I wasn't criticizing anybody for the way they were doing the minutes, like you just seemed to imply.
So that's how you heard it.
Yes, I heard you say that I made some issue out of,
You did. You
open
accused
meeting
us
law.
of violating open meeting law, right? And so I
no,
look.
I didn't accuse anybody of violating the open meeting law. I said that I heard that the town council was saying that we should do it a different way. And so that I had started doing it a different way.
So Pete, one question, leaving aside why ever you did what you did or whatever you thought you were doing, is there any room for confusion that if you wish to state my position, I'm guessing you would join me on this, if you want to state either one of our positions in your blog, you need to let us know what you're stating rather than relying on your own interpretation. Be happy to, if you want to say a good thing, and I think it's a good thing, I'm happy to help you get it right. Would it be reasonable for us to expect going forward from here, you'll abide by that?
I can't ask you about your opinions outside of a meeting, Gus, so.
Well, you can
there's
do it
no way
during the
that I
meeting.
can-
So
Do it
then it's
during the
simple.
meeting.
I don't want to see Eileen Murphy's name in your blog with you quoting something that you think you heard. Unless you want to say, go to YouTube, 2 minutes 46 to 3 minutes 47, and then people can go and see exactly what I said, then there's no misinterpretation. And that's exactly what I do when I do the minutes. I never guess at the minutes. I literally sit through every YouTube, and when I read it, I go and see what we said. And that's all I would ask going forward. If you're going to make a statement, then go to the YouTube, which is posted the moment we leave here, and you can see exactly what was discussed. And then there's no gray area.
The other important point here, Pete, for all three of us, when we are deliberating, the three of us, an issue, especially a contentious issue, that's needs to be an open, free, candid, comprehensive discussion. When you throw something into the mix in the middle of that deliberation, you get a response from people who think they understand what's really going on because they think what you told them was something that you understood what was going on, and that may or may not be true.
All I'm doing, Gus, is sharing the information that I gather
And
when I
I'm
come
telling you
to
not
a
to do
meeting.
that, Pete, if it involves us in our positions.
Well, yes, at times it does involve other select board members.
So I
or
take
other
it, I
members of
take
the
it,
town.
Pete, that you're saying, no, I'm going to continue to feel perfectly comfortable unilaterally stating the two of your positions on my blog, because it's on my blog, and if it's in the middle of a deliberation, I really don't care.
All I'm trying to do, Gus, is to
I know
provide
what you're trying to
information
do,
residents
and you're
in town.
obviously not wanting to address this issue, because what I'm hearing you say is, and I'm going to do that whenever I want to. If we go down that path, I'm going to want confirmation from the Attorney General. Would you like to get it and give it to us, or would you like me to get it?
Feel free to get whatever you need or want.
Next time it comes up, I will do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Where are we going next?
So I look out and I know that there are people here that want to discuss 27, and I'm not just gonna move past this, because we've,
Yeah.
so the only thing I am gonna ask is, that microphone right there, if anyone has any comments they wanna bring up, you can go to that microphone or to that microphone, but if you stay in your chair, we will hear you, but at home, the Medfield TV wants to make sure everyone's heard remotely, and even on the YouTube. So, I know there's some, I mean, Sharon, I may start with you, because I know you sent quite a few emails. If you want to discuss it, or if you guys, I can move on to the next topic, but I look out and see people that I know want to come and talk about this intersection. I don't want to just brush it off.
My 375 page manifesto, I think.
I-
Yeah,
Sharon did an incredible amount of work over the last week, because as much as what you just heard from me, and that we maybe aren't totally rubber stamping what you're looking us to do at this point in time, she did a lot of work, and it was very helpful, Sharon. So
you're welcome. I can feel free to repeat myself. I'm pretty sure everybody in the room probably read what I wrote already. But the fact of the matter here, and I guess is to cut to the chase, is that my head is probably going to explode over the fact that nothing has been done over the last 2 years. And I'm going to try to control myself, because the display of what just happened here, I understand this is the only way that you guys can talk, but that was so incredibly inappropriate. And because I'm sorry, I watched the 528 meeting. I watched the 528 meeting more than once this weekend, and Pete didn't lie.
Say that one more time. Sorry.
Pete did not lie about what the two of you said and what you said in that thing. And I will tell you right now that, Eileen, you just said that the study that was presented was 2 intersections and a roundabout. That was the MPO study. The study that this town paid for with the grant was 1 intersection and 3 roundabouts. Every single one always ends in a roundabout as the safest thing. But as I said to a conversation I had with Gus on Sunday, I actually don't care if you put in an intersection or a roundabout. I want you to make it safer before somebody dies.
Absolutely.
Okay, I go through that intersection twice a day. A tremendous amount of people go in through that intersection all the time. Statements that were made in May at your meeting was talking about how nobody really drives on West, everybody drives on 27. Okay, if you look at the numbers, more people are on West than they're on 27. There's just been a tremendous amount of things that were said in May that weren't based on the information. I actually don't fault any of you for that, because I don't think any of you were ever given the studies. If you were given the studies, they weren't done so at a select board meeting or in any public forum. The amount of times that I had to ask to get the studies just to be able to go through them was way too many. You know, every year I was on the warrant committee, we talked about it, and every year it ended up getting pulled as a warrant article, so it never went in front of town meeting, because we were trying to get funding. And then all of a sudden we get funding, we go and we do the study, and then we get the federal funding, and then we stick it in a drawer because the town wanted an intersection. The town hasn't spoken, and the town wasn't given a chance to speak, because a few people in this town decided that an intersection was better. And I also completely disagree with you, Gus, where you just said that that it was going to, you know, whatever, 1.4 for the intersection. It was 1.4 for an intersection in 2022. I think the prices have gone up. And also, it's not 1.4. If you look at what we actually submitted to the federal government, it was 1.44 for a piece of it, but the total project cost was 1.75. Now, when that was put through, we were told by Beta that the roundabout was going to cost $2 million. We submitted it, and we didn't ask for that. We asked for the lower one when we knew full well at that time, and we have known full well for years, the Mass DOT was more than likely going to override and make this be a roundabout. So the fact that we didn't even ask for enough money that's beyond myself too. There's so many pieces about this. The fact that we told the federal government that we would be done in a year, it would be done in October. Well, if it was done in October of 2023, I am going to bet money we didn't have a med flight copter here in March.
Say that one more time, I lost the end.
If this had been done when we had said it was going to be done and it was finished in October of 2023, the chances that there would not have been a Medflight helicopter that had to land here in March is really good. And I'm also tired of hearing people say that you'll go into a roundabout too fast. The entire point of a roundabout is to slow people down. And so there's just been so many things that have been said that nobody is listening to the traffic safety engineers, because people have a predisposition of the fact that there's lights and we need to have lights. We need to have a safer intersection. Because I know people that have all had crashes at that intersection, and I have come up to that intersection sometimes and you can't see the light because of the sun glare. There are so many things wrong, and now we are at a point that we are going to lose this funding in September of 2026 because it has to be expended. And the only way to move forward is for you to approve a 25% design process with Chapter 90 funds. I'm not interested in listening to the fact that we're going to lose other projects because of that, because I don't see there's any other project in town that is more important than fixing something that's on the top 200 crash list. Already in the last 3-year period, we have had more crashes at that site than when we were on those lists before. So you can guarantee when those numbers come out, we're going to be on it again. And if back in 2022, we were told that we had to start the 25% design phase in May of 2022 in order to be done in October of 2023, that's 16 months. We got 24 months left. And we were also told that if we had to do the roundabout, it's going to take longer. And so I think it's time to stop trying to armchair quarterback this and trying to decide what we do and care about, getting mad at somebody for putting something on a blog. And the agenda item is the 27 and West intersection in order to save the lives of townspeople. And I expect you to do something.
So Sharon, thank you for the letter that you sent. Sharon has done a tremendous amount of work on this. I am amazed at the amount of work and the precision. I haven't looked through all your zip files yet, but it's huge. But just the data that you've collected has, and I want to thank you for that. It's very helpful to me personally, so thank you. The question that raises for me is that it seems like the town made a decision to go a traffic light route versus the roundabout route that the state was pushing us towards, and yet I never heard about that on the select board, so I guess I'm trying to figure out how that happened. So at some point I'd like some sort of understanding presented to the select board about how we got to where we are. Because the first time I heard about the roundabout, I think it was when Mo came here not that many months ago and told us about the roundabout that DOT wanted.
My answer is I don't know.
That was probably when I did my blog.
My answer is I don't know. I think the only people that have that answer are Christine and Mo to tell you how we got there. Because it was not, I looked at all of your agendas since 2021 and nobody asked you. So I don't know.
Else you have anything to say?
Well, I'd make let me back up. Sharon, you said, Pete had it right. No, he didn't. Yeah, no, I don't want to get into it.
I don't want to get into it either. And all I'm going to say is I watched it and I walked away from the same impressions without having read Pete's blog first. So I think that.
And so both of you should have probably asked, but that's why I want to explain.
You could probably ask everybody else who watched it too, but that's okay.
The start of this, as I understand it, when we first looked quite logically, because the traditional regular way you would look at a intersection is what do we need to do by way of changing lights, by way of changing lanes to make an intersection that's not as safe as it needs to be safe. So the initial concept, as I understand it, was to sit there and modify the intersection just like we would modify any other intersection. So the issue of how did the roundabout come about was when the DOT, we've talked about, I can't remember exactly where in the time frame I became aware of that.
just gonna stand
Okay, okay. Oh, that's fair enough, okay. I wasn't looking to have a
I wasn't
straight
gonna
comment.
speak. I was
Okay, I
just
wasn't
gonna
looking to
stand
have.
here so I don't have to be a jack in the box.
My point is, at the point in time when we were trying to go down a path to correct or to improve an intersection, suddenly the DOT sticks its nose into it and says, well, but we really prefer or strong, and in the initial, and again, Sharon did all the work. There was a lot of good reference material that I wouldn't have had any reason to go into that I looked at. The DOT suddenly comes in and the message is strongly recommends roundabouts or rotaries. For some people that have contacted me already know, I like rotaries. They're a lot of fun. First rotary I ever ran, some of you probably weren't born when I was driving through the Alewife Rotary. That was probably the first rotary I had to deal with in my life as a driver. And then when I got over to Europe, they were a whole lot of fun over in Europe. And so it's not that I dislike rotaries categorically. In fact, the three of us are unified about, if we could figure out a way to do it, unified about putting a rotary in at the North Street, Harding Street intersection. So this is not an issue of, oh, you don't know about rotaries. It's like, yeah, we do. Some places rotaries are good, some places they're not. But my point, I started, the initial efforts, as I understand what we've done, was to look at how do we need to change the intersection to make it a more safe, to better handle the traffic and make it a safer intersection. In fact, the MPO report that I saw from the documents you provided, that's what they recommended. And then afterwards, from at least the documents, they then came in and said, oh, by the way, the DOT is strongly recommending roundabouts or rotaries. And so they expanded or modified to include that, which is fine. To the point about the meeting is I wasn't saying I want that intersection. I was saying we need to continue to pursue that because we're not just going to flip over to a rotary or a roundabout. I want to know what both of those are. And that was at a time in May when the estimates we at least were presented with was that the intersection was 1.4 million and the roundabout was 1.9. So where I'm coming from is that was a $500,000 difference on something that appeared to have two approaches that would deal adequately with the safety issues that we actually had. Now, you can say roundabouts are safer. The DOT thinks they're safer. Well, then are we going to change every one of our lights? Are we going to put a roundabout at Dale Street? Are we going to put a roundabout at the intersection of 109 and 27? At $2 million a clip. Remember, we have a school project that also is going to be looking for funding. So for some of you, perhaps the impact on taxes is of no consequence. There's a couple of people I've talked to that's sort of a rounding error on their checkbook. But for a lot of other people, it is a consequence. And I speaking personally, when I do things, I'm trying to do things that make logical sense. But I'm also very mindful of the impact that's going to have on our taxes on a period of time when we've had a trend where we put ourselves on the top of that pile. You don't think we should worry about that? Well, come talk to me separately, and if enough people do it, then I'll stop doing it, because I think I'm doing it in the interest of the residents here in town. On the rotary versus the roundabout, for me, there were three issues. One was the cost. One was the design that I saw, and I think even the other design involves taking private property by eminent domain. Now, I take that seriously. If that's the only thing you can do, then sometimes you have to do that. But if you have options, I don't think you just casually say, yeah, well, we're just going to take property. Now, part of that, I need to know how much property. Maybe it's inconsequential. One corner, even in the design I saw, over near the school, yeah, we're going to take the corner. They don't care. I don't even know if the vet would care, but I think the building that has garden continuum in it, they might care, at least on the design that I saw. So it's a factor. The other factor for me is when you change what we do at that intersection at a time that we're changing things in multiple intersections in the north end of town, and we're looking at a state hospital redevelopment, a likely development of some type south of Hospital Road, and ultimately some development at the Arboretum, the issue of how does the traffic adjust to what we do to individual intersections makes a big deal. Now, it's possible that a rotary on Route 27 would actually incentivize more people coming off of Hospital Road to use that rotary. You're right, I'm not a traffic engineer, I'm just asking the question. And it's not like I am firmly in one corner or the other. At our last meeting, there's at least a tentative indication that the state will help find enough money to make up whatever difference there is between an intersection with different signals and a rotary. I think that's good news. I do not take that as the state has committed to absolutely giving us all the money we need for this project. That's not my experience in dealing with the state. If anybody knows how to get the state to come through 100% on tentative commitments that they make, I'd like to know, because we got to talk to them about some of the stuff up at the state hospital. So my point is, I'm not firm on anything. Those are the reasons why I'm not just jumping on a rotary, but that's our job, is to figure those things out.
I think we want you to jump on a 25% design phase that looks at all of them. I mean, if
So
you,
I'm not
if you
sure
read
that
what
that's
that is,
I don't think that's the logical next step. If we have
It's the
somebody
only
here
next
from,
step.
we have someone from Beta, I asked the question, and I think there's something short of 25% designs is what you do. If we,
Yeah, so what I do want to do is, I want to move this forward, but before I do that, I want to make sure if there's anyone in this room that wants to stand up and make any statement, it's very important that your voices be heard. So I know we heard from you, Sharon, but otherwise what I am going to do is I'm going to move this forward to a discussion, and I believe we have somebody from Beta here, and I know the chief, to something that you said, Sharon, that matters is, let's do something. Like, we can do something in a very short term to address the light that's going to be there for at least another year. Right, and so, and I just saw the chief. She may have just headed to the ladies' room. So if the gentleman from Beta, is it Ken? Yes. If you want to come up and share your findings, and then we can have the chief, because we do
Madam
need to
Chair?
address it. Oh. Okay, if you're gonna, David, you have to stand up, because otherwise people can't. There's a mic right next to you.
Okay. Yeah, David Temple. I live at 300 South Street. And I was here a few weeks ago talking about the question of roundabouts versus traffic lights. And the data that I saw sounded pretty overwhelming in favor of the roundabouts for greater safety and easier throughput than traffic lights. And to me, the traffic lights in Medfield are a nightmare when you see the backup. In the evening, if I come from Shaw's to go home, I don't go Pound Street because they're backed up to beyond Pound Street. I take Nebo.
And I can tell you, the chief will tell you that the study we paid back in, like, and she can correct me with this number, but in like the late 1990s, early 2000s, and we don't own those lights to change them. That's all controlled by the state. As much as I would love for her to go in and start tinkering with what happens and the way it plays out, Barry and I just talked about this when we were doing the field trip to check out North and Harding, West and Harding, and Hospital and Harding. So we understand this. It does not fall on deaf ears that
Right,
the
yeah,
traffic
right.
lights are a disaster in this town right now. And we need to address that on top of the 3 intersections I just
Right.
talked about, and this 27 in West. So, okay. All right, and we got that. I know you presented it to us before.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you sat in the March 28th meeting and gave us all the reasons, which I appreciate, and all the different reports that come out and support it.
Yeah. One thing I've done since then, since Norfolk has a couple of roundabouts in it, which I thought seemed to work pretty well, I called the
But let me ask you, what's the speed approaching those? And that's my biggest concern, is we have a road right now that has a 50-mile-per-hour speed limit. I know in downtown Norfolk, it's not 50 miles if you come into that small road.
Oh, yeah,
It's not that in
yeah,
Sherburne.
yeah.
So when we start talking about roundabouts, the only thing I get concerned about is it's not apples to apples. And so, and when you look,
Concord Route 2.
Yeah.
There's plenty of similar.
but Concord Route 2 is Route 2. It's not in a town like Medfield where 27 West is completely different from that setup over there.
The fact is, it can be
It's
done.
not.
Okay, no, okay, and I hear you, but I just, when people make the statements about Sherburne and Norfolk, that's not apples to apples, and I just don't want to be misleading, where you've got a smaller rotary and something that, and Ken, I hope you can address this, where even the concern of, we need to make sure, I'm not against a roundabout, and that's where I get very defensive. All I said was, we know what we presented, that we implied reconstruction, we were looking towards a light. The state came back and said roundabout. Like, okay, well, we'll go roundabout if we have to, but can we explore lights? Because it can be done faster, it can be done without taking property. And my concern would be, if we can get enough property, then we can have the cement trucks or the semi-tractor trailers with the hitch. When you see people get hit in Boston, it's because somebody's cutting a corner and someone in a bike lane doesn't have enough room for that tractor trailer to take. So we need to flush that all out. We're going to move forward. We're going to make a change. Wait, I hate to be, I can't hear you back there, and I don't want you to.
But,
Everything is just taking too long.
but what I did is, knowing that Norfolk had their lights, I called the police department there, and I was ultimately referred to the DPW. And I talked to Blair Crane, the head of DPW there, and I said, the select board is considering a roundabout. What's your experience in Norfolk? They've had them for 10 years. And he said the roundabouts have been great for safety. He likes it forces people to slow down, pay attention to their driving, as opposed to the signal lights where people tend to, if they give it the gas to make the light rather than slow down for the intersection.
David, you're talking about the two roundabouts in Norfolk Center, right?
Right. Yeah. And this is different, a little different from that. But let me continue. Okay. But he found that the roundabout, and I had in mind the throughput in town, thinking, gee, wouldn't it be great if we could do something about the traffic moving like glue through the center of town? He summed it up by saying, I can't think of a better way to handle traffic, and that's why roundabouts have become a standard in the Commonwealth. And I learned from this Facebook post that...
If it's on Facebook, it's true?
No. From the Facebook post, I learned that Sherburne I didn't even know they had a roundabout. But I went over there to look at it, and this afternoon I spoke to Sean Killian, the DPW head in Sherburne, and I said that we're thinking about, Medfield is thinking about doing them, and he interrupted me saying, oh, you're going to love them. And the intersection in Sherburne had limited sight distances, and there was this had been a site of a lot of very serious accidents, even though it's a narrow road. One thing he pointed out was that at West Street and 27, you have terrific sight distances for a long way in all directions, and if people have ample time to slow down, they're not going to run up to the roundabout. I think your inclination would be sort of coast toward the roundabout rather than going up like that and slamming on the brakes. And they were both very, very much in favor of the roundabouts and thought it solved a lot of problems. And I mean, I don't know anybody that hates traffic lights any more than I do, but I don't think anybody else likes them any better than I do either. But that was it. I asked the two of them, and I got very enthusiastic reports from both neighboring towns.
Great. Yep. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for the record, my name is Ken Ho with Beta Group. So we are the designer for this intersection. So what I like to do is explain the 25% design that's required by DOT, because that's a critical milestone. That's where you have you held a public hearing to make sure that everyone is on board on the design, whether it's the traffic light or a roundabout. So before you even start the 25% design, what DOT require is that there is this ICE process, ICE. What that is intersection control evaluation. And that's what we have done as part of the alternative concept analysis, which I can quickly go through. So as shown in front of the TV, that's a very conventional, back, at least maybe 15 years ago, if there's a traffic light that's deficient, 15 years ago, DOT would have no problem accepting this design, because what it does is it solves the capacity problem, because we're adding all the turn lanes that's required, whether it's on Route 27 or West Street. Mm-hmm. And it also addresses the safety concern, because we're going to have a brand new traffic light that has all the features that you could, the intelligence that you could, basically provide to this intersection with the left turn lane, the fully signalized pedestrian crossing, and certainly, bicycle accommodations. There are traffic lights that really facilitate bicycle accommodation. So 15 years ago, this would have been something DOT would accept, and ICE process doesn't even exist. Okay, so ICE process really started probably about 7-8 years ago. And any projects that has to be funded through DOT, which is the Transportation Improvement Program, has to go through the ICE process. And so we got to demonstrate that we exhausted all the alternative concept to improve traffic, safety, capacity, and this is for all users, not just vehicle, pedestrians, emergency vehicle, heavy trucks that goes through, this intersection. So the intersection that's shown here has the right-of-way. I know you can't see it from here, but you get closer, there are red lines that's around the intersection. That's the right-of-way. That's the sections of the roadway where it belongs to, in this case, the intersection actually it's under town jurisdiction. It's only beyond, which is under a state jurisdiction. So any work that's done within the red line, there's no right-of-way impact. The next option, if you could turn to the next option. Thanks, Frank.
You want to zoom in again?
Yep. No, this is good. Yeah. So what we looked at is the first option of the roundabout right here. It's a one lane. We call it a one lane roundabout. And just like any other intersection, there's just as you approach, whether it's West Street or 27, there's one lane coming in, and there's one lane within the roundabout. And if you can see, the roundabout takes up a lot of land. The reason being is because you got to make sure emergency vehicle could make a U-turn at a roundabout, and a truck could actually make through the roundabout. School buses and all that. So the minute when you design for the turning radius for a truck, emergency vehicle, the land mass is pretty big. And as the land mass gets big, you got costs. Cost is going to increase. I know Gus has mentioned the cost between traffic light and a roundabout. Roundabout is going to cost a lot more compared to a traffic light. And depending on what you want to do with the roundabout, you can have, the cost could be, I know it was approximately $2 million back in 2020. And if you look at the Transportation Improvement Project list, you type in Mass DOT, this project is actually on that list. And, we gave the information to DOT. And typically what DOT would do is they add in a lot of additional costs to the project just to make sure that it's not short, because the last thing they want to do, if the project is short, it would be a pain, another nightmare to ask for more money. So right now, they tack in construction administration costs, the construction site observation costs. They tack in, all the contingency that's required to make sure that the project, there's enough money. So if you go in there, it's listed as $3.9 million. So that's a lot of money, which is actually good. 3.9, we've got to make sure that we're not short, from DOT standpoint. So the only thing about this conventional one-lane roundabout is that the capacity is not going to process. So what's going to happen is, the level of service grade for intersection, it's graded as A, B, C, D, and F. So in this case, during the peak hour, because you have very heavy volume from 27 and also on Side Street, depending on the day, time of the day, whether it's in the morning peak or the evening peak, so the level of service is rated as F, so which is failing. So we don't want to design a roundabout that's one lane on day one open and it fails. So what Promise look into is the next option, which basically it's when we looked at it, it's the what we call it's a hybrid. So for example, some of the lane approach, whether it's West Street heading eastbound, there's 2 lanes. One that, because you have a heavy right turn lane, so we created kind of a dedicated right turn lane, and then one that's actually entering the intersection. And then when you get into the intersection, certain section is 2 lane and certain section is 1 lane. So because some of your volume are in balance within the full approach during different time of the day. So we come up with this option right here. Now, the big difference between the conventional 1 lane versus this option is your right-of-way, because the first option, you got about 5,000 square feet of right-of-way impact. And this option right here, because it requires more lane, it's about, I think, 12,000 square feet. And if you get closer, you can see that the mass of the roundabout is encroaching the red line. I know it's tough to see from where you are at, but that's all highlighted in the plan. So when we looked at this, we go, oh gee, just like the comment that was made earlier on, we want to minimize the right-of-way impact. Is there a way that we can minimize the right-of-way impact and at the same time providing the capacity, the safety that's required for this intersection for our user? So that promised to look at the next option, which is basically, another roundabout, but just keep in mind, a roundabout doesn't have to be round. If you go into Worcester, yeah, you go to Worcester, especially, someone said Kelly Square. That's a peanut, but that's a roundabout. So because of right-of-way, you don't have, a roundabout doesn't have to be round. So in this case, we came up with, I think the best description is like a kidney shape, kidney bean shape. But what we could do is we were able to reduce the right-of-way impact based on this concept. So instead of 12,000, we're looking at 9,000 square feet. But that's still quite significant right-of-way impact. And so we took another step at looking at, what if we go back to the conventional roundabout, and can we kind of shift the circle, to the left or to the right or whatnot? So that was the last option, which this is very similar to the option, which is, I think, in the report is called Concept A. And this option, we were trying to shift the circle, and we were able to get it down to 1,000 feet less than the other one. The other one was 12,000, so this is 11,000. So these are the concepts that we're presenting to DOT as part of their ICE process. And DOT will get to review it, which, and they'll get to comment on it, and then we'll have a meeting with them to discuss, which option is the best option to address the safety and the capacity option. So that's essentially what we have done based on the concept evaluation.
Ken, can I ask a question? So
Yes.
there's actually 2 questions. The federal grant we got was not through the TIP program, but it's administered through DOT. Is that subject to the same requirements that the TIP program would be?
Yes, it would. We have discussed this with DOT, and what's going to happen is that the project is about $3.5 million. So the project has been approved, but it hasn't been programmed. What that means is the 3.9 hasn't been guaranteed. And that's very typical with DOT. And, once the project moves forward, that's when DOT will, collectively, include the 1.3, and then they'll get other funding, could be from housing choice, additional housing choice funding, or it could be from CMAQ, which is congestion pricing. So they're going to collectively come up with the $3.9 million.
So what if we had never requested the federal funds, but we had submitted to the TIP program and were accepted into the TIP program?
Yeah.
Where would the money for the TIP, where would this $3.9 million come from if it came in through the TIP program clean?
That would be up to the MPO, because the MPO, they have a pot of money that they get from federal, and they can do all kinds of things. I'll give you one example. If your project is shovel ready, and if if the project is short of say $1 or $2 million, if there's another project that's not ready, what's going to happen is say, we're going to push you out. Your funding is going to go to Medfield. So that's one way they could do it. But there's just many ways that they could collectively, secure the $3.9 million.
Because what's coming out of this discussion is we've been arguing over 1.4 million versus 1.9 million,
Yeah.
and you're throwing out 3.9 million, but also I think suggesting that there's funding sources. I mean, everything that's driving me around cost is
Yeah.
an assumption about what's going to fall on the town.
Yeah.
And it sounds like I won't tie us up now, but it sounds like there's half of this problem we don't even understand.
Yeah, I mean, the construction funding, that's something what the TIP is. That's something they're committed to. And, how they're going to get that money, it's up to the MPO folks. And there's a whole team there. They collectively decided, what project, what money comes from which pot, within that whole federal funding. And I think the commitment that DOT expects from the town of Medfield is the design fee, because TIP money is just for construction. They do not include design.
So if we use the 1.3 million for the design fee, we could look to the state to cover whatever else is involved there?
The construction, yes, they would cover whatever
The 1.3 is for construction. You'd still need to use the 300,000 from Chapter 90 for design.
That's where Mo is coming from
Yes.
with that request.
Yeah.
Okay,
Can I just make one super quick point of clarification? The 3.9 number is in a letter inside the packet. We got it on June 1st, 2022. Would you mind just telling everybody the date of your study, when it was done?
Oh, this study?
Yeah.
Yeah, this was done in June 2022.
Thank you.
So was this when you started talking to the state about roundabouts in June of 2022?
That was, in around that time frame, yes.
Okay. Were you still talking with them about traffic lights at that point?
When we met with them, yes, traffic light was still part of the discussion because nothing was decided. Nothing was decided. This is just a nice process.
Yeah. Who were you dealing with in the town side? Who were your contacts in the town?
It was Public Work,
Mogul?
yes, director.
So the tip, if you were dealing with both, that says that a light intersection is tip eligible. Now, forget the DOT's preferences, but from I guess I'd call it legal or administrative standpoint, if you were still talking about the lights, then in fact the lights could conceivably have been put into the tip, have been accepted into the tip program.
Not in 2022. I mean, 15 years ago, yes.
So why would we even have been talking about it? In other words, our understanding at least is we were looking at a light
Yes.
intersection redesign, and I thought you were involved in helping figure out what that looked like, because we had engineers that were at least, which shows up as an alternative, and then we have DOT saying, oh, we really like roundabouts. And what I have some factors that I'm using that are not road design factors. They're eminent domain factors. They're a little bit it is in terms of impact on road. Does a rotary help the flow to where people would be more likely to use Route 27? You sent me an email back that suggested yes, it does, which is meaningful to me. But if it wasn't a possibility, if it was literally not, I guess we would have been told it's not a possibility to have it accepted into TIP. That was independent of the federal funds, which basically the request was based kind of on that.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand the,
Right.
historic flow here, that's all.
I'm curious as to when you told the town that the state was going to prefer a roundabout over a traffic signal.
The state never prefer at this point.
Right.
They never prefer what improvement design concept. It's just as part of the process, it has to be evaluated and all the concept needs to be considered. So at this point, the state have never, identified their preferred concept.
Okay. Mogulay told us when he came here at the end of May that the state was going to need a very good reason not to do a roundabout. Is that your understanding?
Well, if we presented the options, and for some reason, if the town is against a roundabout, the state would like to know what are the reasons behind it, why a roundabout is unacceptable.
Mogulay told us back when he was here presenting about this that the state preferred the roundabout, but you say that's not true.
The state has not made a final decision as to what the design concept is. Historically, similar intersection with other communities, the state has looked into the options, an existing signal and a roundabout. So there are projects that has been done right now or built in Springfield. There are intersections where they've gone through the process. And if you were to bring out those examples, the state has looked, basically converted the signal into a roundabout. The state, the reason the ICE came about, it has to do with improvement of an intersection has to be for all users. Back in the day, it's all about cars, moving cars. But now it has to be with everyone.
So we don't do this very often, but you do this all the time, so you're very familiar with MassDOT and what they want and what they will agree to. Are they going to push us into the roundabout or not?
I think the state are open to hearing, if they were to conclude that a roundabout is the preferred option, and if there is any objection to it, they would like to know why.
Right. Yeah.
And there are intersections where it's a traffic light, and when we go through the ICE process, we show the roundabout concept, and if it shows that the right-of-way impact, you're designing a roundabout, that's going to be a few feet away from someone's house.
Yeah.
I think that's a compelling reason that you can't do it.
Mogulay told us that the state preferred the roundabout at this intersection, and that's apparently not correct. Is that true?
Pete, I can clarify
Well,
where it is in your packet.
Okay, Sharon, please.
Yeah, you have two emails in your packet. One is from April 25th, 2022.
I didn't get to look at all your
No, I'm just
attachments.
letting you know we're there. You can look
No,
them
I
later.
did. I looked through all your stuff
Yeah,
last night.
there's two emails from, I believe, I feel like I know you already. I've seen your name in a lot of emails. I'm Sharon. Nice to meet you. You have a colleague, I believe her name is Jacqueline. I might be pronouncing
Yes.
it wrong.
Yeah, no, that's
Okay,
Jacqueline.
so Jacqueline is Mo's main contact, and then Ken works with that. So Jacqueline sent Mo two emails, one on April 25th, 2022, and one the morning of your meeting on May 28th, 2024. And in both of those, she confirms to Mo that more than likely the state is going to insist on it being a roundabout.
Oh, well, that's
so
what Mo
that's where
told
he
us.
got his
Yeah,
information
yeah,
from,
yeah.
is because Jacqueline told him that twice. From
Sharon, I
from-
think the words in those two references, the first one in 2022 is that the DOT strongly recommends it, And in 2024, this is just in the documents you sent, in 2024, it said, is likely to require
Right,
it.
it's not a 100%, and I
Right.
think that that's the entire thing,
Yeah.
is that,
Right.
and I read the contract amendment that you sent us 2 years ago to move forward with this, and it had said in it, when it described the bullet points of the 25% design process, and what I walked away from that, and you could maybe just clarify for us, is that in this beginning, in kind of like this first phase of the 25% and the ICE, like we have a public hearing so we get to talk about it, but then Mass DOT also will give feedback. And so if what kind of the town prefers and presents and all that kind of stuff, if Mass DOT disagrees with it and says, no, you actually need to do a roundabout, not an intersection because it's safer, there is a kind of negotiation process between Mass DOT at that time. That's kind of what I read into the bullet points, but maybe you could explain how Mass DOT comes into that.
Yeah. So first of all, I know, it's, I think more than likely, in the email that you referenced to, when my, colleague had mentioned to Mo, it's probably the correct term. And I think mainly it's because we have done so many design intersection with DOT, and we are very familiar with the process, and we work with all the people there. And when we looked at this roundabout design right here, we're looking at, is there a compelling reason that we think that right away is a concern with DOT? And I think this, there's really, you're not impacting any house that's a few feet away. There's land here. It's going to cost a lot more because as you widen the intersection, there are great difference, especially at the school,
Right.
Or the other side of 27. You have to build retaining wall. All that costs money. And unlike a regular traffic light, you don't have to go that far out. So I think just based on our experience, I think this is something probably once DOT looked at it, there's more than likely they would think that the way to proceed, it could be a roundabout. But by no means have they decided.
Right.
By no means have they come out and said, we prefer this option at this point. So I just want to clarify that.
No,
So coming back.
Can I need to get the process straight in my head.
Yeah.
So the ICE process identifies options.
Yes.
Who chooses, coming out of the ICE process, who chooses the option to submit to DOT? Is it the town would make a recommendation?
No.
That DOT either does or doesn't accept, or does the town make a decision and DOT has to approve it?
We typically, in the report, we've typically looked at all the design options. We do not identify a preferred option, mainly because it's neutral, it's up for discussion, and that's the purpose of the ICE process. It's a neutral process, and DOT will review it, they'll provide their comments, and then they would meet with us and we would discuss their comments. And
Who
if there's any
decides?
ultimately, because this is a DOT project, ultimately they would have basically they would decide, they would tell you that what's the preferred option once they have a chance to review
But
it.
they would listen if you had some argument
yes, they would
against it.
listen.
Okay.
Yes.
But then the next piece of this is, if it's only, so my instinct was, it doesn't make sense to me you do 25% designs, because I
No.
think of that as being expensive. So you have to figure out which one you're proceeding with to get to the 25%
Correct.
design.
And the one thing which I didn't mention as part of the, before you even get to the 25%, is once you do the ICE, essentially what we have here, it's a concept about 10%. So DOT has another review process, it's called over the shoulder, OTS review. And that's when we would sit down and say, hey, we've looked at your design and here are the comments. And that's where we would eventually DOT would say, well, this is our preferred option.
So then my last question is, and then from a finance standpoint, what I think I'm hearing now that I would not have understood before is that we may need to do the upfront work, the upfront design stuff using our
300,000.
Chapter 70 funds, but once we get past that wicket, the cost is on the state or DOT. So this is news, that if we have something like 300,000, that's the money we're putting into this, and then I guess timing might be an issue,
The
but
timing was always the issue.
timing was always the issue.
Yeah.
Okay. But I guess what I'm saying is I'm sitting there worried about the ultimate cost of the project and how much of that falls on the town. And what I'm hearing tonight is, well, don't worry too much about that because the upfront cost is going to follow the town no matter what. But after that, it's got to come in through the state, even if it's running through the federal government first.
Go ahead, Mark.
The delta was, who would pay for taking claims? Would that be would the state or would the town be responsible?
That would be the town responsibility.
Okay. So that's still an issue. Okay.
And do they look at, so when you look at the area where this intersection is, you have a apartment complex that has, I think, 45 apartments. You have a elementary school or daycare center that has a lot of activity coming and going. You've got another complex right past the opening. So all of that activity coming and going with constant movement of cars, because now you don't have a traffic light that stops it.
Right.
It's cars constantly, so I don't envy anybody trying to get on 27 at 4:30 when it's just going to be cars, whereas today at least lights would regulate. Does that come into play at all when they start looking at flow?
Of course. I think DOT will certainly look into that. And the one thing about roundabout is it's been research has been done that it serves a very good traffic calming process. Because right now, doesn't matter where you're coming from, you have to slow down. You have to yield to cars that's within the rotary. So you're looking at cars going 10 miles per hour, 15 miles per hour going through the intersection. Unlike a traffic light, you will still get people, you still have people running the yellow or the red. You still have potential crushes. And so that's really, that safety. I think someone, because you may have mentioned it, DOT view roundabout always as a safer option compared to traffic light.
Do you agree with that the roundabout is safer than the traffic lights?
Based on research, I think because of the traffic calming effect, that you force everyone to slow down. Yes, I think safety is certainly, it has that traffic calming.
Yeah. That's what Mogul shared with us when he reported on it, that's why the DOT would prefer it, because it was safer.
That makes sense to me, and but the issue is the point I made before. So are we saying every traffic light needs to be replaced with a roundabout? And I think that's when you hit an economic issue, although maybe not. Maybe it's the state problem. Maybe it's not our problem.
So, can I make a comment about that?
Sure. Yeah.
Could you just say your name and your address?
Sorry, Ted Carlson, 31 Longmeadow Road. I think if you talk to the superintendent of schools or the principal of the schools, they constantly talk about their number one priority is the safety of the students in the school systems, right? That's the lens. Yeah. We should look at this through that lens as well. What's the number one priority? Is it the cost or is it the safety of the people who are driving in the intersection?
Yeah.
Tracy almost died. What is her life worth, right? And she's not going to be the last one. And so the answer to your question in my mind is, yes, we should be looking to replace every dangerous intersection from a traffic light to a rotary to save lives. That should be your primary lens.
Wouldn't it be safer for us to drop all speed limits to 15?
State won't let us to do that. But yeah, we should look to reducing the speed limits in town if we could, but we can't. What we can do in this particular intersection is to put in a rotary, and it's safer, and that should be our lens. That should be our number one criteria. We're not talking about a huge sum of money.
We could perhaps put gates in and have people stop at the gate and open it up.
No. About this intersection.
Hey, guys, please, hey, excuse me, wait. I do not want this to get heated and wild yelling.
Yeah.
The one thing we haven't done yet is I know that the chief is here, and what we can't do is change anything that happened yesterday. We can change going forward. So my intent right now is I absolutely appreciate hearing from everybody, and I'm not cutting you off. If you want to finish, you can. I don't want anybody yelling in the audience. I have the chief. She has, that's all right. The chief has got some information she wants to share with what we can do immediately going forward, because this light isn't going away overnight. And so to your point, and to everyone's concern here tonight, people use 27 and West all the time. I would say comfortably 60% of the people using West Street are going to another town, right? So I don't really care, not that I don't care about this, but I care about our own residents. And so I know that the chief has got some ideas she'd like to surface. So Ken, by all,
Right, but let me just kind of finish my thought, though.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Right, so just briefly, you don't get T-boned in a rotary. It's a slow speed, low impact accidents that happen. You do get T-boned in red lights, and that should be our primary concern.
So I accept that point. My pushback was only when we say one thing matters and who cares about the cost? It's like, as a practical matter in the real world, you have to figure out how to do that. I wasn't arguing against the point, and I think you're right. Everything I read about rotaries, I mean, it would be hard to T-bone somebody in a rotary unless you ran across the middle.
Can I have Ken answer one more question
Yeah,
before he sits down? Ken, could you just tell us what the timeline would be in order to get through the process, since the federal funding has to be expended by September 2026? Like if because you had said this was part of the ICE process, but not the whole. Is that what I heard you say at the beginning?
This is part of the ICE process.
So if we were gonna magically decide to keep moving forward today, like how long do you think it takes to get from this process all the way through the design phases to construction?
I think the time frame is going to be heavily depending on Mass DOT review process. And so if I have to give you an answer based on so many projects that we have looked at, you're looking at probably to get to the 25% design. And this is not even scheduling the public hearing, because DOT requires 7 weeks lead time to schedule a hearing to make sure that they capture all the audience. So to get us to the 25%, you're probably looking at somewhere between 3 to maybe even 4 months, and that depends on when we made the submittal. DOT, we are at their mercy in terms of their turnaround time to get back to us and to schedule meetings and all that.
So those were sort of my questions that can I just ask?
sure.
I want to know how to get it done at this point. And so can you give us maybe send us a series of bullet points as to what we need as a town need to do to get this accomplished and not lose the monies that we've been earmarked from the federal government?
I think it's the next step is to move forward with we're at the ICE process, and we are at probably we met with DOT recently, and they recommended that we could just proceed with the design towards getting to the 25% design.
Which design are you going to proceed with?
This is, we did the ICE very preliminary, so the next step is to, try to solicit a meeting with them and to see if they have any comments based on what we have submitted.
Yeah, which design? Is it the rotary, the roundabout, or the traffic
That's
signals?
going to be part of that discussion.
Okay, so that decision hasn't been made?
No,
I don't
that
think you have to pick
decision
one
have
first.
not been made.
Okay.
Which
When
option?
does that decision get made?
It would be after DOT have made the review of the
20.
alternative design that we have, put together. And then once they complete the review, then we will schedule a meeting with them.
Okay. Sharon, do you have the bullet points as to how to do this?
I have some of them, yeah. But I could,
Or could you maybe
I
just,
think Ken
send
should do it.
us the bullet points of what we need to do to get it
Yeah.
done?
I think Mo and Ken are also coming to the meeting next Tuesday
Yes,
to
yes.
present
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
Who's
Mo
going?
and Ken will be at the meeting next Tuesday as well
Oh,
to
okay, you're
present
gonna
all
make
of
us
that
a
to
regular
move forward.
stop. Good, thank you.
Okay.
So Ken, you said, well, we just have to submit it to DOT. What is currently preventing that from, why not do it tomorrow? Why couldn't you do it? I'm sure it's something on our side, but I don't know what it is.
I need you to authorize the $300,000 for design.
Okay, that I actually think from what I've heard tonight, I think that's something that I would be prepared to do, unless somebody here says not to do it. But from what you described, we're in for that, no matter what we do, unless we're not going to proceed. So
We're going to proceed. So
that's not an issue. Okay.
Yeah, and there is some sort of need to be moving forward, or else we're at risk of losing money.
I really think the next step is we need to get comments from DOT, because any design effort right now moving forward without DOT deciding on, if they have, which option they prefer, it would be a waste of money.
Right, I don't disagree.
And to get those DOT comments, we have to spend that 300,000, you say?
Well, I think it's all inclusive. I
Right,
believe
it's the whole
I know
design.
yeah,
So
the whole,
it
the
will-
whole
Yeah, the 25% won't
will
cost the
take us to the
300,000.
finish line.
Yeah.
So are you good? Do you have any more questions? Because what I would like to do.
I do have one.
Okay, go
I
ahead.
do have one. Since you did this in 2022, is the DOT going to make you redo any of it because it's so old?
I don't think so. I like to think that they are reasonable people, because nothing has changed.
The state and that statement all in one line, really?
Yeah.
I also had a conversation with Dana Hansen in Auchincloss's office today. They have a liaison with Mass DOT, and as soon as you vote the $300,000 for design, they will contact Mass DOT to expedite the process.
Okay.
Okay. And the last thing I want to say is I want to pass on the thanks to Jacqueline at your office, because she's the one that's been trying to push it.
Yeah, she's my right hand.
Right here.
She does a good
Unfortunately, she
job.
couldn't
That's
make it
all I want to
tonight.
say.
Yeah, I will relate that to her.
And I have one more question relative to expiration of funding. And it's going to sound sacrilegious, and I'm just asking because I'm testing the limits here. The issue, and Sharon brought up the issue of the expiration of funds, which was certainly a valid issue to flag this week in our conversations. What happens if they expire? If we're in the TIP process and DOT is doing this and we're proceeding along, and for whatever reason we don't use those funds, then does DOT just have to come in on the TIPs, because we've put requests in on both sides? I'm asking, is there a consequence if, from our standpoint of getting this project done, given that we've applied for it directly as a TIP project as well, and I'm not suggesting we're going to do this, but is there a consequence to us if that happens?
I don't think so. And just working with DOT, I think right now they know the project's going to cost more than $1.3 million, and they know, the town has that funding, so they'll do anything to try to secure the remaining of the funding, and eventually it's going to be all lumped in together. So,
Jake Auchincloss may never get us another earmark if we do that, but I just wondered. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, so we're good? All right, thank you. Well, in other words, I don't want anyone to leave here and say, I didn't get a chance to say something. I mean, the mic is live, and I think it's important that you're here. So we got,
Well, I guess I just have a question.
we had somebody's going to come in behind you. Let them ask some questions.
I want to wait until the chief speaks.
Oh, okay.
I'm just curious, are you guys allowed to vote to move forward with the 300 funding, or does that have to be on another agenda?
It's up for,
No, 'cause we
it's
had
on for, it's
potential
on the
votes.
agenda.
You had potential votes, so you had the opportunity to do that tonight.
Yeah.
I just want to say I've never been so happy not to be a traffic engineer. I definitely, had I chosen that profession, I think I might leave after this. Here's the thing, right? There's a process for it, and I am ignorant to that process. DOT and doing anything with the state does sound like a complicated process. I'm having some trouble following along with the bullet points, and I would love to see the bullet points, because the rest of it does seem very convoluted. But that being said, we did take a look at some of our data that we have, and we do have data related to the intersection, right? So intersections by themselves are not inherently dangerous. They have red lights there. People are supposed to stop. It maintains people in the order that they're supposed to be in. The reality of it is that accidents occur not just in Medfield, on the highway and all across the nation, usually because of behavior, driver behavior, right? Speed, which has not been a factor for us with any of our reported data, but speed, people falling asleep, being distracted, taking an improper turn, not following traffic devices. So I think when we talk about redesign, what we're really saying is, how do we design this intersection to mitigate some of the driver behaviors that are contributing to the accidents? Now, this is obviously going to be a process that's not going to happen tomorrow. I assure you I don't have a shovel in my trunk. I won't be breaking ground. It's going to take some time. So I had met with Mo via telephone and Bobby Kennedy, and we talked about what stopgaps can we do today to help until this process really finds its footing and moves to the next stage. I'd like to propose a couple of things to the board, and I'm glad that Ken stayed by because he can tell me, no, you can't do that, that's illegal. What we talked about are people running the red light and making illegal turns, as well as failing to maintain control of their vehicles, that's rear-ending somebody, are the root causes, the main causes of our accidents. Of the 35 accidents we reviewed over 5 years, operator error was a factor in every single one of them. So one thing we can say for sure is that our current fog lines bend out as they approach the intersection, specifically on North Meadows Road. That gives a reasonable driver the impression that I have the use of that roadway. So when an individual is attempting to take a left-hand turn in either direction on North Meadows, the roadway is wide enough that drivers believe it is safe for them to proceed by that car. In fairness, and in Massachusetts, in the Commonwealth laws, 2 vehicles are not supposed to operate or own the same portion of roadway at the same time. So one recommendation to the board would be that we black out the lines as they bend forward and drive them straight to the intersection so that we indicate to operators they must stay in their lane of travel. We can also attach rumble strips to the side of that. There are some rules as they pertain to bicyclist activity, depending on the type of rumble strip, and put a sign up, stay in lane. Those are 3 ways, both visual and physical, that the vehicle is going to react if you cross over the lane, and that it's going to provide drivers with a reasonable expectation to stay in their lane. We all know we're not supposed to cross a solid line. Is this 100%? No. If we had 100% foolproof, we'd never have accidents, right? But it's to mitigate it. The second thing that we looked at is people running the red light. We already have a 5-second delay at this light. So what that means for those of you who don't know, it means all lights are cycled red at the same time for a period of 5 seconds. It is because we understand that driver behavior is that I'm coming 45 miles an hour and, ooh, I can get through it. As we see from our statistics, we can't. And just so you have those statistics, we are averaging 5.7 car accidents per year. We had 2 outlier years in 2020 where we had 0 accidents. And then in 2022, when everybody got back out there, we had 13. But the average is 5.7 per year with a 14% injury rate and a 51% tow rate. That's where that number is spiking. It's because the accidents are occurring at higher speeds, so the damage to the vehicles is greater. Our second option then and recommendation to the board is that we try and slow people down prior to entering the intersection. There are clear sight lines in all directions, so we know our motorists can see that the light is turning red. We understand that motorist behavior is, I can make that light before it turns red, and other motorists sitting at a stop sign are looking at the red light going, I can go because I know that's turning red, and they're going through, right? It's just a terrible combination of ideas. If we were to install advanced warning signs that flashed signal ahead that were connected to the traffic signal cycle, so if it was signal ahead, reduce speed in all 4 directions, we are at least warning our motorists entering the roadway at 45 or 50 miles an hour that they are approaching a signal that is activated. For many people, that should calm their behavior down and say, I already know the light's red. There's no sense my speeding up to it. I can see it's red, or it's going to be red by the time I get there because the sign is telling me. So those are my kind of recommendations to the board now for perhaps an immediate or very quick mitigation to help calm some of the traffic. Certainly open to any ideas. Sharon has some.
I'm sorry,
This
not
is usually
sorry.
the Bill the Sorrow mic, so you
I'm
guys
sorry,
do
not sorry.
I just have a question about the red flashing lights because I actually think they're a great idea, and I think.
Thank you. I came with that one on my own.
No, well, because I don't know if you remember, we had talked really briefly in March at the night of the election, and because I know they have that red flashing light in Wellesley, and when we had that conversation about whether or not we can put in something like that, you had made a comment that you thought that the state would have to do a study and there was a risk of making the speed limit higher.
So that's kind of, we had a different conversation. So
Okay.
in order to change speed limits, just so people understand, we cannot arbitrarily change a speed limit on a road. We have to do a traffic study that we have to pay for with the state. We are not entitled to do any enforcement before or during the portion of the study. The state then takes the data back and they set the speed at 85% of the median speed. So if we know we have a roadway that's, let's say 30 and we want to get it to 25, but everybody's driving 35, we're getting 30. So
we don't have to, I guess my question is, we don't have to worry about, because I know there was a little bit of concern when we had that conversation that people go so fast there, we actually have the risk of it going up.
So that's why we can't change the speed limit, but what we can do is put, these signs are yellow, so they are cautionary.
Yeah.
Right? So it is a cautionary sign that we want to tie into the traffic signal itself that lets people know the light is red or is turning red from
No, I
this
think that-
distance.
I think that's I think it's a wonderful idea. I walked away from our conversation thinking that you couldn't even put in that sign without risking the speed limit thing. So I think it's great. What I'm hearing is that they are two separate things, and you can put that in.
Yes, these are cautionary signs. We're not attempting to reduce speed or change the speed limit. We are alerting drivers of a traffic device signal that is in the red position upon their approach.
I like it.
So those are, really the options that we would present to the board. I have spoken to Director Goulet. He thinks that these are things that we can get done pretty quickly.
Okay.
I know the roadway in terms of changing the lines is something we can do very, very fast. We'd have to wait on ordering the signs and then wiring them in. In the meantime, I can certainly have signs installed. I will, one sec. I certainly can have signs installed that are saying reduce speed ahead, but I'd love to have them tied into the signal.
Sure.
I think that's ideal.
Okay.
Yes.
You have a question?
I do. So what about what occurred to me is if the red light blinked because I think the problem there is that people run the red light because they don't see the red light. And is it possible, and maybe the traffic engineer knows better, he says no, so can that idea. Thank you.
Thank you for doing that over me.
So the other thing that I was going to ask about, Chief, is that I think all of these ideas are good. And ever since I was on the committee that studied paving Causeway Street, I learned about fog lines to calm traffic. But I think that we need costs for the things that you just suggested. So is that something that you can get us?
Yeah, so the cost we would have to look into, I know Mo felt pretty confident about the installation side of it. He did say if you decide to do the rumble strips, that would be contracted out. I do have budget for traffic markings. I'm not going to lie, they upped our prices, so that's
The painting
blown.
seems-
But I also have a budget for traffic signs and lights.
I mean, the
So-
painting doesn't strike me as being expensive, and so
painting
that
is
seems like a
outrageously
no-brainer. But
expensive.
the other stuff, to put in other sorts of signalization on an intersection that we're going to redo quite soon might not make sense, depending on the cost.
It seems, and not to contradict you, but it seems based on what I'm hearing from Ken and the process alone, and if we all know the state government, soon might be 18 months. And
yeah.
I think that that's a really long time in terms of if we can get something in 4 to 6 weeks.
Absolutely. So, Chief, let me ask you, from a right on red, and the way you just described what you want to do to 27, does that make 27 a singular lane? So if you want to go right on red, there really technically is no space to go right on red?
I would say, and this is going to be a somewhat unpopular decision, we need to focus less on people being delayed 30
no,
seconds.
I'm just asking. I just need people to understand what
And yes, no, it would absolutely create some delays on North Meadows. We are not finding the delays on North Meadows. The lights are cycling fine. And during the day, the lights cycle fine for West Street as well. it's as we have that increased traffic, and it is Dover Medway. I read the accident reports, right? These are commuter people coming through town. That's where it gets backed up. When we have people violating the light on North Meadows, I think it's more due with the fact that they're coming into the intersection hot, and they think it's easier to jump it than it is to slow down. When we have people running on West Street, I think it's frustration. But if we do make that a singular lane, yes, it will stop right turn on red. We should hash mark it out so that people don't take it. It's going to slow people down. My personal opinion, that is I guess that's a consequence that's worth having.
Oh yeah, no, I just wanted to put that out there so everyone understood. Because what you explained to me earlier today, which I have a greater appreciation for, is drivers in Medfield and people visiting our town are treating that intersection like we have a turn lane today, and we do not.
Correct.
People are illegally going around cars, and that's what's creating this blind turn and accidents occurring. So, I can speak as chair. Anything we can do in the short term, because time has gone by, and I sit here as chair, and I've been on this board since the end of March 2022. And the one thing I do know that goes on in this town is there are a lot of things. If you think about what's gone on with school votes, Trinity, State Hospital, this MBTA communities, there's been a lot on the plate. So I don't want anyone to think like, gee, we get these grants, we don't pay attention. There's just so much that goes on. And then you have people who have had family tragedies that have taken them away and put their priority on their families. And those things happen. So if anyone leaves here tonight and they think, the board's not paying attention, Christine's turning a blind eye, Mo doesn't care, you guys don't know what goes on behind the scenes with some of these people and what's going on. So from the bottom of my heart, no, she's busting her ass, Mo's busting her ass, and I appreciate the chief coming forward and saying we can make a difference. No one wants to see anybody get hurt.
I would like to say, I love the fact that the town comes out and is passionate about this, and passionate and respectful. I think we can have spirited debate and get mad, but I think people here are very respectful about it. My experience with the Board of Selectmen and Christine is that these are people that are working their tails off every day. And, the system is not flawless, certainly, and I can stand up here and say, could we have proposed these things 6 months ago? We're trying to be as responsive as we can. I hope that these are suggestions that the board can entertain.
Yep.
But like I said, I appreciate the words even when they're harsh. So, all right.
So what do we need to do? Next week, can we verify some of these things to approve signs?
Well, I'd like you to vote for
The 300 tonight?
I'd like you to vote the 300,000 now out of Chapter 90. Mo will access it tomorrow.
Okay. So,
Ready?
motion.
Yeah, I move that we approve $300,000 in funding out of Chapter 90 funds to fund the early stage design work for the intersection reconstruction.
I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. You're making a motion?
Yes.
I thought we couldn't do that tonight.
You
It's
can
it's
make a
under
motion
vote.
for the 300,000 to start the design
Not
process.
on Michelle's ideas.
All right, so say your motion again, because I didn't hear.
What did I say now? I move that we approve $300,000 in Chapter 90 funds to fund the early stage design work for the West Street Route 27 intersection reconstruction.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
One quick thing, Christine, I don't know if you want to clarify for me. Because these are not roadway design changes and these are cautionary signs, I don't actually think it requires a vote.
You don't need a vote.
Okay.
good. Okay.
If it matters, I think they're good ideas, so I certainly support what
If
you're
you
doing.
want them to vote to have them on the record, there's no reason why they can't. If you want to vote to entertain,
I didn't think we needed to.
I don't think you
but-
need to. I just didn't know if you
but
wanted.
Do I have agreement?
So you don't want
I
us,
loved your ideas. That's why I made it a point of getting behind the microphone. I think
you don't
this
want
is-
us controlling more things than we have to.
All right, thank you then. We will get to work on this. If the costs seem like they're going to go higher than I expect them to, I will certainly advise you of that, but I think we'll be okay.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
Two more things that I wanted to mention or ask and mention about this.
Is this the West Street 27 intersection?
Yes.
And directed to?
Pardon?
And directed to? Is it to Ken, to the public?
Well, I have a question for you and Gus.
Okay.
Which is that we were just told that Beta made a recommendation to the town in 2022 about a roundabout. When did you guys first hear about a roundabout at that site?
Yeah, you know, Pete, it'd be hard for me to, somewhere in the past, I don't think it was 2022 in fairness, and I wouldn't necessarily expect that I would hear about every recommendation that the DPW would get anyway until, in my head, I kind of focus in on the things that we act on. So when we got the notification in December 2022 that Jake Auchincloss had gotten the federal funds, I was happy. You couldn't, it was embargoed. You couldn't talk about it. And in my head, I just go, well, at the point that somebody tells me what they want to do with those funds, I'm more than just happy, then we can deal with it. So in terms of trying to figure out exactly when I heard anything, I'm not sure. I know for sure since the start of this year, I knew about it. The only reason I remember that is because I'm sort of hacked at how the state interjects itself into local government in so many different ways. That's sort of a hot button with me. So to have the DOT tell us what we need to do rather than, the DOT had said, this is something you really ought to take a look at, I would have been delighted to do it. But when it comes down as mandates, too many government bureaucrats at state, federal, and sometimes even local level are too quick to grab their power to force people to do things instead of doing the hard work of encouraging it. So somewhere, at least at the start of this year, I knew about it. I know I knew about it well before Mo presented to us on the 28th, but I also knew that at that point in time, my attitude was, there's the state again trying to tell us what we have to do. So, which is why I didn't want to kill the intersection with the lights, because it's like,
right.
there's a big difference in price, and the state wants the expensive one. That's the same thing that happened with the last school project. So.
Yep. And when did you know about it, Eileen?
Gus might have brought it up to me, not Gus, excuse me, Mo might have brought it up to me when I had a one-on-one with him. It was supposed to be like an hour, and we sat for 3 hours and talked about a ton of stuff that was going on when I first came on board. And I came on in end of March 2022, and we talked about a ton of things. And then I know it came up again when we were talking, just because there was the talk about the rotary at the roundabout at North and Harding. And at first I didn't like that idea. Then when I realized what it was going to do, I appreciated how that traffic area right now is horrible. And then that's when I said that the light made sense at 27. We're going to look at rotaries or roundabouts. But to tell you exact dates, I'd be lying.
All right, well, that's good
It's
because.
been a whirlwind ride since March of 2022, so a few things have gone on.
The other point I'd make, Pete, is there were the four intersections that niche engineering did around, like the Adams Street, West Mill, Bridge Street, 109. That was one group of things. There were the 3 intersections that we did the site visit on. There was another one. There was the Route 27 intersection, and then there's the Hospital Road intersection that may or may not be an issue at some point. So there's like 9 intersections broken up into 4 different buckets. And for me, they're all, the niche ones kind of stuck out because they were sort of minor.
So the reason that I asked specifically is because it was news to me when Mo came and presented it. That was the first I'd heard about.
I knew the state was going there.
And to hear that it was being considered since 2022, I just wish that the information had gotten to the select board sooner, but apparently it did get to some of the select board members. I mean, it's a
At least
town
earlier in the
decision
year.
between town meetings. The select board makes a lot of the decisions for the town, so I just wish I had known sooner, I guess. So
You've been
then,
a select board member since what, 1990 something?
2000, I think.
Okay, and so you know what happens when there's a lot of reports that come in, and as Gus just said, there's so many different groups, and so I find it somewhat hard, and if you're saying that you didn't recall and that you're just seeing it the first time, I'm not pushing back. I just know that there's a lot of information, especially as chair. There's a lot of one-on-ones as we start looking at agendas, when we start talking about topics. So it's unfortunate if you're saying this is the first time you think it's been brought to your attention.
Yeah, I thought it was unfortunate too, especially when I hear that it was starting to be talked about in 2022. And then the last thing that I'll just, I found the blog post that you guys objected to so much, and the wording that I think you're objecting to reads, select board members Murby and Murphy said they preferred new traffic lights. I actually think that's an accurate statement of what you said that night. So.
I didn't say I preferred them. I said we needed to continue to explore them. That's I didn't stake a position that I wanted them.
Can we not go down this path again, in
yeah,
all
yeah,
honesty?
good
Like,
point,
we-
Good point.
I think that says it all.
Good.
Thank you. All right, appreciate everybody coming. Thank you very much.
Appreciate the hard work, Sharon.
Welcome. I'll work on whatever that committee is, only that one.
Okay.
I need to put that shock
All right. So, next item here in our discussions is on meeting minute edit approval process.
Yeah, I actually can, this should be faster. So I called the open meeting office at the AG's office, and you wind up in their voicemail, but I heard back from Carrie on August 22nd. She didn't give me her last name. Here's what she said. First off, there can be no substantive edits where someone expresses opinions, which we knew.
We don't do that.
Non-substantive changes are fine to be processed through shared documents, but if someone disagrees with changes, then the resolution process needs to be conducted in open meeting. So in other words, when we make changes, the shared interest is in making changes in the interest of what actually happened. But what she's saying is if somebody says, no, I didn't say that, and well, yes, you did, and I didn't mean that.
And we've
So
done
we have done that.
Yeah.
We call those off. And then she said, if someone thinks there are substantive changes that need to be made in the minutes, then they should be, the discussion of that should proceed in an open meeting. Her suggestion was one way you could do that is to just tell the chair that we need to do this, but I actually think for us, we'd probably just tell Christine, we need to bring this one back on for an open discussion. I don't know that I remember that ever happening at all. There's in tonight's minutes, as an example, there's one place where I appended more of what I said, and the specific example was around Belforge asking to have us sell or give the property to him, and I remember I made a comment in the meeting. I don't think the legislature will look kindly upon, letting you out from under prevailing wages when it's a piece of state property that you just get acquired. And that didn't get picked up in the minutes, and I thought that was sort of an important point. But other than that, we can do this as long as they're non-substantive changes. And if they turn out not to be non-substantive changes, then the process has to stop and the minutes go for open meeting discussion.
So we're okay to continue what we're doing?
Yep, we are.
Okay, good.
Okay. All right, we're good with that. All right, so action items. Vote to appoint Georgia Cavalis, treasurer collector, as tax title custodian for foreclosure purposes.
Yes, this is just a housekeeping. Periodically, we've gone through and looked at past minutes to see whether or not that official designation was done. We went back a few years, couldn't find it, so we figured we'd better put that on there.
Okay.
So, ready?
Yep.
I move that we appoint Georgia Kalivas, treasurer collector, as tax title custodian for foreclosure purposes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, board committee appointments. Appoint Nick Scalfarato, if I hope I pronounced your name correctly, as an associate member of the Medfield Historical Commission.
And this was advertised and recommended by the Historic Commission.
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
I move that we appoint Nick Scalfarato as an associate member of the Medfield Historical Commission.
And I happily second that because I saw that he went to the University of Grenoble that I attended to in France.
There you go. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, vote to approve the quoted price from Zones LLC as the reseller of OpenGov, the software company that will create a permitting, licensing, data storage system for the building, land use, and conservation, fire, and DPW departments, procured using the state's ITS 75 contract, and vote to authorize the town administrator to sign the end-user licensing agreement with OpenGov.
Ready?
So,
In the amount of $84,409.64.
All right, put that in there, I missed that. Okay. Motion?
is that a yearly
Oh, I didn't
cost?
say second, I didn't even say second. All right. all
No,
those in-
it's not. That's the startup
The
cost for the
purchasing.
software, and then there is annual maintenance software that is included in the first year.
Okay,
All right, so we've got a second on that?
second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, vote to sign contract with Vertex Companies LLC for environmental consulting services to the town of Medfield relating to the upcoming renovation demolition activities at the Medfield State Hospital UPP grant funding.
Ready? Yep. I move that we sign.
No.
Oh. You have a comment?
Any comment?
Yeah, I sent it in yesterday.
To me?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't see it, Bill. I'm sorry.
no, that's okay. Let me just read what I sent.
Yeah, I did not see that.
It's simpler. So I have no objections to the proposed scope of work.
Okay.
But you're all familiar with my concerns about the indemnification clauses that we have in our LDAs with DCAM. For anything arising out of any environmental hazards or anything else, the town is responsible to whoever files the claim and protect DCAM and the state. So basically, we're indemnifying the state and DCAM from any claims, whether it's from the town or whether it's from abutters or anybody else. I didn't see any language in this contract that does the same, basically passes down the indemnification as we pass down to Trinity. So basically, our LDA with Trinity says that Trinity is indemnifying the town from any claims that come out of environmental hazardous material issues, indemnifying DCAM and indemnifying the state. And my question is there, and I'm not saying, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm just saying they're going to be pulling asbestos samples out.
Mm-hmm.
They say that they're going to be doing their work in accordance with the Massachusetts asbestos laws. My question is, do we need to have those same kinds of indemnifications for the town, DCAM, and the state in this contract? I'm not saying we do, I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, I don't think so. We had Lisa Mead prepared the contract, and she's obviously very familiar with the Trinity contract as well.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah, no, it's not. No, there's actual work being done.
There's work being
There's
done.
work being done on it.
And my other comment, which I'll raise when they actually begin pulling stuff out of the buildings and start doing remediation, is I have always lobbied for air monitoring stations between the work being done and the residents' neighborhoods. And I've done that before with DCAM for all of the work that they're involving anything that had airborne contaminants or potential for airborne contaminants. So my only question is, there is nothing, they have insurance, they have insurance for their employees.
Yes.
The town is not responsible for
That's
anything
correct.
else. I'm just asking the question, we should, as long as you own that property and you maintain that property, you're responsible to indemnify DCAM and the state. You sell the property, I fought hard to get the language in there that says whoever we sell it to has to indemnify us and DCAM. And now I'm saying Vertex is going to be in there, they're going to be doing work, they're going to be pulling samples out of the building, they're supposedly complying with the asbestos handling requirements that the state imposes, and I believe there's some national standards as well. But the question is, what if there's a airborne contamination? What if one of their employees is infected by the asbestos or other contaminating materials? They're going to be looking at fluorescent lights. They're going to be looking at PCBs. They're going to be looking at a whole list of. Are we protected? That's all I'm asking.
I mean, I'm relying on our council to have prepared a contract that protects the town. So I
would think so,
don't
only
see it as
because
an issue.
everything you just said, that's exactly why they're going in there, and this company wouldn't be doing that without making sure that their people are protected and they're not.
Can we maybe send Bill's email to Lisa Mead and ask her?
Yeah.
You can.
I would. I mean,
You can put it on I can let Abby know it doesn't get signed tonight. The work won't start. And we
have a
can
meeting
put it
next
on.
week?
We can put it on next week.
I'm only raising the question because all of the lawyers that were involved with the RFPs and writing the LDA and everything else, I basically had to educate them on what was in the land disposition agreement with the state.
Bill, the thing it's worth 2 minutes. The thing that I'm not a lawyer either, but the indemnification chain of us buying the property from the state, I understand, and we indemnify the state. And the indemnification of Trinity indemnifying us and the state makes sense because the thing that they're indemnifying is anything bad about the property.
Right.
if we hire a consultant to work on our behalf, and I think in this case, not only on our behalf, but
Also
basically we're
Trinity's.
bringing Trinity in to provide a service to deal with the remediation. If I were running a company doing that, I would be real reluctant to indemnify. Yeah, I'd be happy to carry liability insurance for doing things the wrong way. So if I do something and I screw it up, that I would think would be business liability insurance, because I'm not buying the property. So indemnification feels like, as opposed to accepting liability for what I do.
All I'm saying is I've read the clauses. I didn't see anything. So I'm thinking in my mind, worst possible case or whatever. They're taking asbestos out of the building for sampling or whatever. It gets airborne, contaminates a neighbor or whatever. Neighbor gets in, the neighbor files a suit against. Who does he file a suit against? Who's responsible for it? Does he file it against Vertex? Does he file it against the town? Does he file it against the state? Is the state protected
Wait,
against
he
it?
works for the company, he's gonna file it against the company.
No, a neighbor. I'm talking about.
Somebody.
Oh, a
If
neighbor.
Vertex has sufficiently big, deep pockets, which I believe they do, they're going to go with the easiest, most direct route. Typically, there's some kind of indemnity language, all our contracts, the ones I have. I mean, there's no etched in stone indemnity language. It varies from one circumstance to another. It's subject to negotiation.
Except for the LDA, which is very clearly has 3 paragraphs, 2 pages of.
Well,
But that's not for work being done on the property.
It doesn't say, it says any issue arising out of any environmental hazardous material on the property, coming onto the property, from off the property, or going from the property onto abutting property.
So it's a question for Lisa, I guess.
Yeah,
And I'm not trying to stop this.
I'm trying
I
to, I
want
know,
this to go forward. And if you guys want to sit here and make a decision that says basically, we don't see that there's a risk for the town or anything else, it's fine. I have no problem with that.
I'm trying to see if she's available now.
Can
but
we just,
she's not responding.
Chris, can we approve it subject to Lisa
Yeah, sure,
saying that it's okay?
absolutely. I have no
If
problem
you want
with
to do
that.
that,
Does that work?
well,
I don't think,
agree or
I
not.
mean, either you're right about something, Bill, or you're
Yeah,
not. And if you're
then it's gonna
not
come
right, then
back.
we're fine approving it. But if we approve, let me put it this way. I don't think it does Abby any good to have us approve something subject to a legal review
No,
that
if
we won't
you're-
be able to confirm
No, it's
until
no
next.
different of doing it
Fortunately,
next
we're meeting
Tuesday.
2 Tuesdays in a row, so we can.
I mean,
it's
I
only a
hesitated bringing this up, but I'm just very sensitive about this, you know.
Bill, you've asked plenty of good questions that never crossed any of our minds in the past. You don't need to apologize for
Well,
for
no, but
asking,
again, I mean,
even
I
if
th-
it's
you know.
not.
I did not see your email yesterday. I will try and find that. I will forward that to her right now, and I will let Abby. I'll CC Abby and let.
I'm trying to
Abby know.
visualize indemnification, because
Yeah,
it's like if
I
you
don't have
indemnify,
it.
but then as soon
What
as you're
time?
finished with the contract, it's
It would
not.
be obvious,
It's
like,
like,
it
yeah,
would be a whole
yeah.
separate provision
Yeah.
if it's in there.
You weren't looking because I didn't send it
Well,
out.
you know what, why don't we hold it in case Lisa Mead
there
comes
it
in,
is.
right? So we'll hold
Okay.
this for a moment.
Why don't you
Right.
hold it for a minute and let me just see if I
It's
can
okay.
get it,
Yeah,
if I
that's
can get a
fine.
hold of her.
Yep.
So, all right, we appreciate that, Bill, that's
Yeah,
all
thanks,
good.
Bill.
There's
Yeah,
nothing wrong with what
yeah.
you just did.
Glad
So-
somebody reads those contracts.
So we'll hold 8 for a moment. We don't have to take it off altogether. Let's move to 9.
Okay,
And we can vote to sign the following facility department contracts. Ace Restoration for brick inlay repairs at the center at Medfield Walkway for $9,900. Do you want to do one at a time or all 3 at once?
Let's do them one at a time. It would take us so long to talk about it. The only question on that one is to confirm, Christine, you signed that one, I believe?
Yes.
Okay. I move that we approve the contract to Ace Restoration for brick. I move that we authorize the town administrator to sign the contract with Ace Restoration for brick inlay repairs at the center at Medfield's walkway for $9,900.
Second,
All those in favor?
aye.
BLW Engineers for engineering design and project manual development for fire alarm system at the Medfield Public Library for $30,000.
This is a select board signature required. I move that we approve the BLW Engineers Engineering Design and Project Manual Development for fire alarm systems at the Medfield Public Library in the amount of $30,000.
Second,
All those in favor?
aye.
All right, and the last one here is the MJ Cataldo for the reconstruction of the basketball court located behind the Public Safety Building and that's for $148,000.
$148,500, but it was typo in here. And that, again, I think is authorizing the town administrator to sign it.
Yep.
Okay, I move that we authorize the town administrator to sign the MJ Cataldo contract for the reconstruction of the basketball court located behind the Public Safety Building in the amount of $148,500.
Okay.
So I'll second that, but I do have a question, Chris, about this, because I thought that was in pretty good shape.
The one behind the police station?
Yeah.
Oh no, it's in her terrible condition. Take a walk by. It needs to be a full reclamation. They actually were. I've had numerous. This is how it
Used
got.
all the time, I know.
It's
Well, so is
it's-
high school tennis courts, and they get
Yeah,
weekends
it's
into
in
them, yeah.
it's in really rough condition, and I had several parents. That's how it ended up on the capital budget. Several parents come in and complain about the safety of it, and they wanted to hold a street hockey tournament and couldn't because of the shift in it. So
Crack in the ice.
yeah, I know.
My observations are casual.
Yeah. But it is always busy. That's why we
Yeah,
at
that's,
the
I
capital
see it
budget
being
video we
used, so I
funded.
just assumed
Yeah.
it was
All right,
okay.
so you motioned, yes?
Yep, Pete
I
seconded.
seconded.
Okay, all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye, aye.
All right, vote to approve the one-day liquor license request from Montrose School for September 13th for parent and alum homecoming event from 6 to 8 p.m.
I move that we approve the one-day liquor license request from Montrose School for September 13th for parent and alum homecoming event from 6 to 8 p.m.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye, aye.
Vote to authorize town administrator to sign the road race approval request, Bike to the Beach for Autism Charity Ride on September 28th from 6:45 a.m. to approximately 8:45 a.m., conditioned upon public safety approval.
I move that we authorize the town administrator to sign the road race approval request, Bike to the Beach for Autism Charity Ride on September 28th from 6:45 a.m. to approximately 8:45 a.m., conditioned upon public safety approval.
I'm happy to second it, but I would note that I don't think they showed us the route in their request.
Yeah, I don't
know
But I don't
we've-
think it
I
matters,
know-
because
yeah, I
I think
know
they have a
we've-
right to do it anyway.
Yeah,
They-
we've
they-
seen it and we reviewed it with the police chief as
And all
well.
those in
They
favor?
said they weren't looking for any, they weren't
Yeah,
looking for
they
any
don't
police
need
support
to-
or anything.
Yeah.
All right, all those in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. And do we jump on to citizens' comment, or do we wait? Any comment from Lisa Mead?
I don't have anything from Lisa, and usually if she's available, she'll get right back to me, so I'm assuming she is in another meeting.
Okay.
Want me to take a quick look and tell you whether I even seen indemnity clause in it?
Yeah, do you mind taking a quick peek?
We have it. I haven't, I wasn't.
This is the,
Oh, there you go.
Bill's got it, okay.
Bill, surprise, surprise. I have it, but it's online here.
Yeah, I do too. but-
It's something to keep in mind, because, anything that you have done up there on the property, think about it, when you own those buildings.
I don't disagree.
I guess I don't know the difference between the legal difference between indemnification and liability. Yeah.
Granted, I was in contracts, but I mean, if you read what's in the LDA, I mean, those 3 pages or anything else, they're pretty specific. I mean, it's like anything.
I always passed
But
indemnification
that
off
was
to the Kodak
that's a
attorneys.
CI.
But again, if they were working, if they were working for Trinity, and Trinity owned the buildings and everything else, you're covered. Anything that happens, I mean, it's not an issue. The problem is that right now we're still in limbo with.
I'm thinking of the rail trail when we were supposed to take on that, and I wouldn't do it for years until they finally gave us a
Well, you were
manageable
having,
out
having
for
issues
that.
with, I mean, all of the herbicides and everything else that they sprayed along the train tracks and everything else.
Right. Yeah, it was past, present, and future for the next 99 years. They had a good lawyer somewhere to write that contract if you were going to sign it.
Okay, there are 2 separate indemnity provisions, either one addresses environmental hazards, but there is indemnity to the full extent permitted by law as far as any liability to the town that arises from the contractor's work.
So the contractor's work is all regarding,
It simply doesn't call out environmental specifically, but it's pretty broad language. with respect to professional services rendered by contractor to the fullest extent permitted by law, contractor agrees to defend, indemnify, and hold harmless all claims, liability, blah, 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 without limitation, which may be incurred by the owner to the extent caused by the negligence of or breach of any provision of this contract by the contractor, the person employed by the contractor, or any of its subcontractors. Then that's for professional services. With respect to non-professional services arising out of the performance of services provided, that such claims, blah, blah, attributable bodily injury, death to the extent caused by any an act or omission of the contractor. So it's pretty broad indemnity language.
Okay. And considering their,
And there's a whole nother unrelated.
okay, all right, so you good?
I think I'm good, yeah. Does, I mean, Christine, does it make a difference to Abby?
Yes.
Okay.
If you're good with it, I mean, Abby really wants to get them on site as soon as she can. We have held her up for a month on this, so.
Okay. I move that we approve the Vertex contract. Hold on. The contract to Vertex, and this is, I think we signed this one. I move that we sign the contract with Vertex Companies LLC for environmental consulting services for the town of Medfield related to upcoming renovation/demolition activities at Medfield State Hospital, I guess funded by UPP grant funding in the amount of $393,285.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye, aye.
Aye. All right. Citizens' comment.
I'm looking, I don't have anybody in there.
Yeah, I apologize. I was told the wrong time. Oh. I was told the wrong time for the start of the meeting, but I was asked by Richard Judge to really bring up an issue, and it's more of a question. And it relates to the grist mill, the use of the grist mill, public safety. Apparently, the Conservation Commission has decided that they need not take action for a fence that is to be put up. And this is an abutter to the property, which now I understand is not really part of the town's ownership of the grist mill, but property beyond the town ownership. So my first reaction, by the way, my name is Thomas Monti. I'm a retired attorney, but more importantly, my wife and I own the house, the historic home across the street from the grist mill, the Clark Kingsbury property. And so I sort of do keep an eye out on the property. That's how I know Richard. And when Richard ran into this issue, he came across the street and asked me what I thought. I gave him some comments, and such as I was a little, I'm sorry.
Is this on the agenda?
It's under citizens' comment, so they're gonna hear it, but then they won't be
Yeah,
able
we
to
can't comment.
respond, and we'll put it on a future agenda.
Yes, that's why I hope to make the point that this is really just a question, as opposed to any kind of looking for an answer today.
Mhm.
Okay, but I'm concerned. First of all, I was not really aware, and I'm sure many people in the town of Medfield probably believe that the grist mill is the property that we've all used for years, that includes access to the pond and an area that was called, I didn't even know this, called the beach, which is basically access for small boats, etc., and fishermen to the pond. As it turns out, the property that I thought was part of the town-owned grist mill is actually owned by an abutter. That includes the turnaround or the circle and the war memorial that is put up. That is not apparently on town property, that's on the abutter's property. The abutter is concerned that people are occasionally accessing the property after dark, having parties. I have to admit, I'm in Florida for almost 6 months of the year, but that's the winter months. And during the summer, I really don't see a lot of parties and things like that going on. But to the extent that we do have, I guess I had a question on why the Conservation Commission is, I understand why they have a say as to what damage could occur by this fence, but on what basis has the town and on what basis have people been allowed to use this property? If it's not ownership by the town, is it an easement? I don't know what easements exist over this. I don't know what rights or limitations there might be to the abutter from putting this property there, but they're moving ahead and they'll have this fence up, I'm told, basically any day. So I thought, because of the public safety issues, as soon as this fence goes up, there will be issues as to how quickly the fire department can get to somebody drowning in the pond, falling through the ice, some other damages like that. To the extent that there is public parking on publicly owned property, to the extent that people can no longer turn around, we're going to have people backing out onto Route 27, which has potential for disaster. I just want to make sure that the selectmen and not the Conservation Commission is making what appears to be the definitive decision on how townspeople can use the town property and whether or not abutters can change that. That's my question.
Okay. So know that we can't address it this week, but we have a meeting
Yes.
next week, so we can put that as an agenda item to then have a discussion up here?
Yes.
Because since it's not on the agenda now, it's.
No, I understand, and again, I'm completely ignorant as to the rules of how this is run.
I
So
would,
I
I
appreciate
would just indicate that the town acquired the pond by eminent domain, go to town meeting prior to my becoming town council. It was back, Chuck Fuller was town council at the time. So whatever we acquired would be in those documents from a title standpoint to determine what's the town's land and.
Sounds like you're gonna have some research to do tomorrow.
Not me.
Deb Barrow, Chair, Conservation Commission, has asked to speak, but where this is not on the agenda,
can't.
I think we'll hold. And Deb, why don't we invite you to the meeting on the 17th? We'll have the building commissioner. We can have everybody come in and have a discussion about that.
Yep, perfect.
But sir, while you're here, can I just ask you a question about your property? Your property used to have the most interesting statue in front of the house. What happened to that statue?
That statue is still it's in front of my neighbor's house on Preservation Way, the first home on Preservation Way.
It just moved 100 yards.
27, that's right. It's in front of the building where they would slaughter their hogs.
I'm
Not the
glad to
big
hear
barn.
it's still in the neighborhood.
It's still in the neighborhood. That's right. Yes, our property is 1 acre down from the 100 acres that were there.
Shouldn't go to Florida, your land just disappears.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Well, thank you very much, appreciate you
Thank
bringing
you.
that forward. All right, so, let's see, consent agenda. Church of the Advent requests permission to post signs at the usual locations advertising their annual holiday bazaar from November 2nd through November 16th, and request for a block party permit for Indian Hill and Niantic Street on September 28th, which that's Medfield Day, yes?
Yes.
Okay, from 3 PM to 7 PM.
I move that we approve the items on the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting minutes. I have sent in my approvals for May 1st, 2023, which was our town meeting, and unfortunately, Pete, you had COVID and you were not able to attend. And then March 19th and March 26th. I have not had a chance to see April 2nd.
Okay, and I'm good with all four, so I guess we're only talking about the three. I already made the point about there were 2 points on March 19th that I made in the document. One was that point I made earlier about the not selling property in prevailing wage. So there's there's a sentence, I think, in there that I added. And then the other thing's administrative on page 8. The report of meeting minutes approved is incorrect, but it's because there was no meeting minutes approved.
Right.
The front end was the carryover, I think, from a prior one. So, and I pointed that out on the documents. That's it.
Okay.
So I was good with all 4. The reason I didn't attend that May 1, 2023 annual town meeting and the meeting before it was because that's when I was having COVID.
So yeah, we weren't having any secret meetings to try to squeeze you out. That was the first time they've had 2 people at a town meeting.
I was trying to figure out why I hadn't been at that meeting, and I thought,
Yeah, it wasn't the
I always
first
go to
time, because I
meetings.
missed the special town meeting that they voted on the school.
Oh gosh, yeah. How could I forget that when I was up in the bleachers? All right, so we can approve.
the
All right,
first
so
thing?
Pete, you won't approve May 1st because you weren't part of that. So
Okay, so let's do that one then. I move that we approve the meeting minutes for May 1st, 2023.
second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye.
So, and then I move that we approve the meeting minutes for March 19th, 2024, and March 26th, 2024.
second.
Second. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 And April 2nd, which was my birthday, but you guys did not know. I will have to do that at a later date. I came in when chaos was hitting. Town administrator updates.
I gave you a printed update. Obviously, there's a lot more updates coming in that we're trying to get out to you, so it was easier to give you a written document. I think the most important update is Anna Rose Franklin arrived last Thursday. So
I know, I love that.
we're very excited about that. So a little grace for all of us as we try and hold all these meetings without Brittany around. Just so you know, Joanne LaFrancesca is going to be assisting us through the senior tax work-off program. She's in the office during the day. And Tracy Clank, who is the assistant town clerk, will be assisting in our office as well. So you may see them both in there when you come in and out. I'm very pleased to announce that we have been awarded the Government Finance Officers Association's Distinguished Budget Award for the 3rd year in a row. We just got the notification. You should see the award in your packet. Last night I had the opportunity to be a guest at the Medfield Foundation meeting, and I thought we had a really good conversation talking about community partnerships and some different things we could all work on, which was great. The 2026 budget process is underway. The warrant committee had their first meeting last night, and the draft budget calendar has been posted to the new fiscal year 26 site on the town's website. The warrant committee mostly discussed revised financial policies, and I believe you all received a copy today, and we'll put that on a future addenda probably towards late October to give you some time to review it. Council on Aging wanted everybody to know that the shedding truck is coming to the center on Friday, October 18th, and that is open to anybody in town, not just seniors. So
Shredding
on
truck,
that.
shredding truck.
shredding. Did I say shedding?
I thought you said shedding.
I might have said shedding.
I thought
don't have my
people
cheaters
could
on.
bring their dogs.
Sorry. That totally changes my whole thing. No, shredding truck. Sorry. As Katie, more exuberant than I'm going to do, announce the Hinckley Playground opening for Sunday, which will be great. They're asking anybody with the delegation to come at 11:30. Not all of the delegation can be there, but everybody is planning on being there at least by 12:30 for the ribbon cutting.
Good.
And that's all I have this evening.
And then we've got the next meeting dates. So we do meet next Tuesday, and then we've got our 2 meetings in October, the 1st and the 15th. Presidential election November 15th, and then 2 meetings in November 12th, November 19th, and then we wrap up the year, which is crazy, December 3rd and December 17th.
And I will not be here for the October 1st.
October 1st,
meeting.
so you're only going to miss 1 meeting.
Only one.
Okay,
Yeah, and we're gonna do a light agenda that night.
okay, I like that.
Oh, come on, load them up.
All right, so select board reports.
I had my meeting with Emily Norton from the Charles River Watershed Association. She wanted to get an update on the Medfield State Hospital. I invited Bill to come along, and he did. Kevin Calcutt, who's running for the state representative seat on the southern side of town, also joined us because he had wanted to meet with me that week as well. And so I invited him to just come along to that one. I told him he should meet Emily and Bill. So the interesting things that I noted, Bill, were that the Charles River Watershed Association has like 10 to 25,000 per year to monitor things. Emily was talking about under the Clean Water Act, I think it is, that towns can tax impervious surfaces, and so that you can tax the Shaw's parking lot type of situation. And some towns are doing that because the cost of dealing with stormwater runoff. And then we talked about dam removal, and she said that there's grant money to study dam removal, not dam fixing, which is what you seem to have found, Christine. So. And Kevin mentioned the possibility of federal funds. I had a neighbor of the tennis courts down on Kerr Street come to see me, and I put him in touch with Katie of the Park and Rec about his issues. He had issues with the lights, and there was debris, and he actually had a thought about moving the tot lot closer to Pleasant Street, which I wasn't quite sure about, but that's for them. And since I knew that he was an expert on invasives, I asked him if he would help me with what I think is something that the town should be doing, which is to just publicize at certain times of the year when we should be taking as residents actions with invasives. So there's times when garlic mustard, for instance, is out. It's very easy to recognize, it's very easy to pull out, and you just put it in a plastic bag and throw it away in the trash. But if you don't do it, it goes to seed and it just spreads. And black swallowwort's the same sort of thing. You just can pull it out and throw it away. And so I was asking him if he would consider, because I knew he knows all the information, and if he creates basically a series of things that could be pushed out to the residents and tell them this is the season to pull garlic mustard. So he's thinking about that, so we'll find out whether that's possible. Dave Temple, who was here tonight, came to see me about the traffic and the roundabouts. We did have the Medfield Foundation meeting, and around Christine joining us, we had the start of the planning for the Angel Run, which is the beginning of first weekend in December. And then upcoming tomorrow night is the Medfield Energy Committee meeting, and that's it.
2 items. I went last night to Becca Rausch's town hall. She covered, she covered a lot of things in terms of funding and things like that. I think from the funding summary she gave us that it would be fair to say that Medfield's getting its proportionate fair share of state funds. So there's relative to at least the other towns that are in the immediate area. Everybody's, I think there's a deliberate intention to keep everybody pretty even. When she went through the legislation, there were a number of items that she had talked about that she succeeded at, some things that she was pushing that went through. One that, I didn't probably should have taken a picture of the slide, but one of the ones was women's health, and the piece of that caught my attention was the midwifery licensure. Apparently that's a hard thing to do, but in order to make it easier, and she made the interesting point that the volume of people using midwives during COVID went up, and then at the end of it never went down. So it's a persistent change in what people are doing. So I thought that was interesting, and it sounded like a step in the right direction. Talk some about gun. I think the name of it was gun safety, not gun control. She didn't get into the details on the changes. She did mention that the Police Chiefs Association apparently endorsed the changes of the that had been passed. So presumably, it's still like to see all the details. I wonder whether they endorsed everything, but maybe they did, and they indicated that they had asked for some of the things that were in the legislation. So that was that. The other affordable housing area was one that she was very happy with, that given that it has the ADU, I was less than delighted with. So at the end, I made the comment about my view that the ADU is a gift to the BlackRocks of the world, and that this is the state's going to do the same thing that they did 40 years ago when they allowed multifamily houses, tenements, to be subdivided into condos, that everybody sat there and extracted the value out of those. And here we are 40 years later, we don't have enough rental units. I think after this, we'll see. But after this, I think we'll find we don't have residential houses for sale because they're all being rented out by large-scale real estate investment companies. But maybe I'm wrong, or maybe they won't come here. There were a couple things that she said hadn't passed, and one of the ones that just caught my attention, it hasn't passed yet. I think there was an economic development package that has not made it through, and the one that I happened to notice was plastics legislation. So towns have done the kinds of things we've done to reduce the use of plastic bags, but it looks like the state is looking to find ways to use less plastic even beyond that, which I think from everything I've read about microplastics in the environment is a step, it's a good thing to do. Yep. So, and then interestingly, so I think Christine, did I just ask you 2 days ago what MPO stood for? The Metropolitan Planning Organization, and then Ken tonight was talking about who approves the funding on the tip, and it's the MPO, Metropolitan Planning Organization, and I passed it, I think you know about this, but just so you're aware, so through the MBTA Advisory Committee, in their newsletter, they said that the Metropolitan Planning Organization has an election coming up, and they were looking for nominations by October 7th, and the Three Rivers Interlocal Council subregion has one slot to. So suddenly I kind of just dropped this off as some sort of a hybrid of the MAPC, and I don't know that anybody cares, to saying, no, I don't know if you know anything about who we might have, or I'm guessing have we ever had anybody?
I don't think we've ever had a seat on it. It would be very nice to have a seat on it, especially now.
Yeah, well, now that I know what it's all about after today's meeting, I think you're right.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe the action would be to put the word out on the website, at least to let people know that if anyone's interested. I haven't had time I didn't really understand the significance of the organization until about an hour ago. So I haven't had time to really think about.
Is it something a select board member does, a citizen does,
Well, it's an election, so I'm guessing that the interlocal council might put up multiple candidates.
I think usually they put up candidates who serve on the TRIC board, and I think Maria is our representative on the TRIC board.
Okay.
So let me ask her
maybe
tomorrow.
that would be the right. I didn't
all
know.
on her plate. I don't know if it's fair to do that.
Yeah, one of us can probably do it as well.
Okay.
So.
Well,
Yeah.
so anyway,
If we get elected.
You have a lot on your plate too. So.
Oh, are you
I'm very
volunteering?
sensitive right now. She's got so much going on.
So anyway, I as of an hour ago realized this was a bigger deal than I was given credit for. So that's it.
All right. As you guys know, this has been a crazy time, so I appreciate the support I got, and it's all good. Want to call the meeting?
Sure. I move that we adjourn the meeting.
All right. Second.